Chapter 356. Not really. Her self-made system is already analyzing the exact location of the gang. Currently, there are 3 snow hiding areas and 1 gathering area. Si Qingyan smiled at Zhong Xinglin. You really found a treasure. I think that compared to the safety of this ancestor, you should be more concerned about her bad temper. The branch threatened her and now she's going to destroy their overseas headquarters. Si Qingyan's eyelid twitched. The most suffocating thing was that he really thought that she could do it. Zhong Xinglin was speechless. No one thought that this matter would develop in such a different direction. Forget it. Let her do it if she likes it. Zhong Xinglin calmed down and said slowly. After all, it was fine as long as the person in trouble was not Bai Yunj. Si Qingyan was speechless. Look, all of them were already indulging Bai Yunj to this extent. It was simply twisted love. The next day. Because it was the day the results of the physics competition were released, many people were very excited. Especially Class 1. I heard that our grades dean has already followed the principal to prepare to receive the teacher giving the award. Someone said excitedly. Hearing this, the girl who was still doing her questions glanced sideways in surprise. The award is being given today. Isn't it usually only the results at this time? Wasn't this year's physics competition a little too rushed? Yeah, maybe it's because someone did too well. With that said, that person glanced at Leia, who was playing games, enviously. Leia was good-looking and good at gaming. She was even so good at physics. Many boys in the class had defected and turned from infatuated with Qin Youjiao to infatuated with Leia. After all, girls who knew how to play games and were good-looking were more down-to-earth to them. Really? I heard that the Year 3 teachers are calculating the scores of the students who went to participate in the physics competition. The highest scores are Qing Zihuai and Leia, about 70 to 80. This competition paper was set by Teacher Huang. How high do you want it to be? Since a teacher came to our school to give the award, it means that the first place must be in our school. With that said, the girl raised her chin arrogantly. It's either Leia or Qing Zihuai. At this moment, the girl who was closer to Qin Youjiao suddenly laughed. Her tone was full of mockery. Did you calculate Bai Yunj's score? After all, he's the first person from Class 7 who dares to participate in the competition. I'm really looking forward to it. Don't joke around. The teacher hasn't even entered the 7th class yet, but he still calculates the marks for Bai Yunj. Do you think it's not embarrassing enough? The few girls felt superior and laughed mockingly. They simply looked down on the people from Class 7. In Class 7, other than the 1 or 2 who wanted to get a scholarship through Class 7, the rest were all trash. Compared to Class 1, Class 7 was the same as usual. Only Lu Yuanci and a few others would comfort Bai Yunj from time to time. They were all people who relied on their looks to make a living. Why should they compare their IQ with others? Chu Zhixing's attitude remained unchanged. He said seriously, I think Master Pei will definitely be fine. If Master Pei wanted to do well, he might be better than Leia from Class 7. However, when the people around heard this, they looked at Chu Zhixing with complicated gazes. Brother Chu, you're one of the few top students in the class. Can you stop talking nonsense all day long? Lu Yuanci's eyelid twitched. I'm telling the truth. Chu Zhixing glanced at Bai Yunj, who was sleeping on the table, and continued, Master Pei is much better than me. Chapter 357. Lu Yuanci was speechless. It turned out that Fatty Chu was not bragging on purpose. He was really a brainless fan of his deskmate. During the flag-raising ceremony, all the students in the class gathered in the field. They also saw the teachers who had come to give out the award. Teacher Yi, it's been hard on you all the way here. The dean's face was full of smiles. No, your school is also full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Your school has 2 of the top 3 places in this physics competition. Teacher Yi looked at the dean meaningfully. You really can't underestimate them. Hearing this, the smile on the dean's face became even brighter. Is that true? Looks like our students have put in a lot of effort. To have such good results, you probably can't just rely on hard work. Teacher Yi sighed. After the full marks paper was graded, Teacher Huang, who had graded the paper, did not sleep the entire night. After all, Teacher Huang had been grading papers for more than 10 years, and this was the first time he had encountered a failure in the industry. That's right, that's right. The Dean of Teaching didn't understand what Teacher Yi meant and could only agree. A hint of sarcasm flashed across his eyes, but he suddenly changed the topic. Teacher Yi, it must have been hard on you to grade the papers this time. I wonder, how is our school's lowest score? Your school's lowest score is not bad. The other schools have even lower scores. Teacher Yi smiled and patted the dean's shoulder. You've already given our competition teachers such a big surprise. Why are you still so humble? When the dean heard this, he felt that these words were a little strange. 70 to 80 points was considered a surprise. After thinking about it, the dean accepted this statement. After all, Teacher Huang had issued several national papers back then, and even the national average score was only 40 to 50 points. He heard that because of this, Teacher Huang was almost beaten up by his parents. Suddenly. Professor C, why are you here too? Teacher Yi saw Si Qingyan from afar. I love Chinese network. Si Qingyan put down his phone calmly and smiled. It's nothing. The results of this competition are not bad. I came to take a look. Teacher Yi, ? A person who even escaped from the grading paper had the cheek to mention results. Do you know what the highest score is this time? At this moment. When the dean saw Si Qingyan, his eyes lit up. This was the youngest professor in Yunqing University. Si Qingyan did not notice anything and was still sending messages to the Computing Institute's group chat. Member A, has it started? Has it started? Si Qingyan, I haven't seen her yet. Wait for me to secretly take a photo later. Si Qingyan, everyone, don't you want to see the precious video of her winning first place in the National High School Physics competition? Member A, I want to see it. Give me a checkup. Member B, I want to see it +1. Ha 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 ha. I didn't expect such a day to come. Zhong Xinglin. Si Qingyan, Professor C. When the dean's friendly voice sounded, Si Qingyan was so frightened that he almost dropped his phone. He glanced at the Dean of Teaching, and his expression did not look too good. What's wrong? I heard that Yun University is planning to recruit specialized students? How would I know? Si Qingyan gave a fake smile. His face darkened when he saw that someone was standing in the best position he had chosen. The dean sensed Si Qingyan's impatience and could only change the topic. It's really hard on Professor C to invigilate this competition. At this moment. Chapter 358. Then let's not talk too much. Let's start the awards ceremony. With that said, Professor Zhou, who was beside her, had already picked up the honorary certificates of the 4 winners with the principal and the rest. And the principal was holding the honorary certificate of first place. Then, when the principal opened the honorary certificate with a smile, thinking about how to praise Leia, he froze when he saw the name clearly. This certificate is. After the principal regained his senses, he felt like he had been struck by lightning. Then, he immediately pulled Professor Zhou, wanting to ask for an explanation. Principal, don't be too happy. It's not time to give the award to the first place yet. Professor Zhou nudged the principal with his arm and teased. The principal's face twitched a little. He was about to go crazy. Who was written on the certificate in his hand? The principal suspected that he was presbyopic. With trembling hands, he mustered up the courage to open the certificate again. In the end, he saw the name clearly again. Was he really not joking with him? The principal's expression was not very good. His eyes drifted past the last few people in Class 7 who were talking and finally landed on the lazy and bright girl. The form teacher of Class 7 thought that the principal found their class too noisy and immediately reprimanded UNC and the rest. Don't talk. They're giving out the award on stage. UNC glanced at Bei Yunj and patted her shoulder to comfort her. Bei Yunj was speechless. At the same time. 6th place, Qin Youjiao, 69 points. When Teacher Yi announced this result, everyone below the stage was in an uproar. What the F***CK? She got 6th place with 69 points. You're wrong. There won't be many high marks when Teacher Huang Qi sets the paper, let alone full marks. Someone who knew Teacher Huang patted the shoulder of the boy who was in a state of shock. Yes, and because of Leia, Teacher Huang directly used the B paper. The B paper has always been more difficult than the A paper, not to mention that it's his paper. Hearing this, everyone understood that the candidates this time had suffered a grievance that they should not have suffered. This was too ruthless. The top 10 only had such low marks. Not only were the people watching the show, even Qin Youjiao, who had won 6th place, did not look too good. She bit her lip. He felt that this matter was a disgrace. She had never received such a low score in her entire life. Jiao Jiao, you did pretty well. You came in 6th place. After that person comforted her, he changed the topic and sneered meaningfully. Think about a certain someone who participated in a competition but couldn't even stand on the podium. Everyone around them knew that this person was none other than Bei Yunj. However, hearing this, Qin Youjiao's expression improved slightly. She clenched her fists and walked up the stage with a faint smile. Although her score was a little low, she had originally expected to be in the 4th or 5th place, so her ranking wasn't too far off. Moreover, no matter how many marks she got, Bei Yunj would never be able to compete with her. After that, when Qin Youjiao walked up the stage, the people around her started to compliment Leia again. Yaya, if it's not you, it's Cheng Zihuai. That's right, that's right. Yaya is good at this. Hearing these words, Leia could not suppress the pride and smile in her cold eyes. Vanity rose in her heart. I didn't do well in this competition either. Actually, even if I got 2nd place, before Leia could finish her sentence, she heard the teacher announcing the results. 3rd place, Leia, 76 points. Chapter 359. The voice on the rostrum sounded clearly and strangely in the entire field. Everyone fell silent. The smile on Leia's face did not disappear in time. F***CK, Leia is 3rd. The other students could not help but exclaim. These words also made Leia's body stiffen and her face turn green and red. However, she quickly looked up and stared at the teacher on stage. She still could not believe this fact. How was this possible? How could she only be 3rd? Leia gritted her teeth. Her legs seemed to be filled with lead and she could not move. Maybe the 2nd place is from another school. Someone guessed softly. Since the 1st place was from their school, it could only be Cheng Zihuai. But other than Cheng Zihuai, who else had the ability to beat Leia? After all, she was the 2nd place in Raphael's competition. Suddenly, someone who was also thinking about this problem noticed the certificates in the hands of the principal and Professor Zhou. He exclaimed, "No. Look, the teacher has 2 certificates in his hands." With that said, the atmosphere seemed to have fallen into a stagnant state again, making people feel extremely strange. So, the 2nd place was also from Hingde. At this moment, Someone asked weakly, so, our school took all the top 3 places. Everyone fell silent. They had a subtle premonition. Was there going to be a dark horse today? Even Leia only got 3rd place. Then what kind of god was the 2nd place? For some reason, the entire school was in a state of excitement. After all, compared to a stable top student, everyone was more willing to see a dark horse appear out of nowhere. Moreover, this dark horse was too ruthless to be able to surpass Leia. At this moment, Yen e-book. In the entire school, only class 7 was in a state of nothing to do with me. Anyway, no matter who it was not from their class. I'm so tired. Brother Wen, can I go back and rest? The boy called out to the form teacher carelessly. Teacher Wen's eyelids twitched. His heart was pierced. Other students went on stage to receive awards, but his students found it tiring to stand below the stage. Bear with it, it's almost over. Teacher Wen looked at his watch and sighed, his eyes filled with sadness. Alright, don't make old Wen sad, Lu Yuanzi said as he elbowed the boy next door. Bei Yunj was the only one who participated in this competition. It was impossible for her to get a good ranking. Originally, if Chu Zhixing went over, he might have been able to get old Wen a place. Thinking of this, Lu Yuanzi couldn't help but look at the lazy girl beside him. At this time, the teacher on the stage announced the results again. 2nd place, Qing Zihuai, 78 points. Teacher Yi nodded in satisfaction and praised, "You did very well." As soon as he finished speaking, the people who were still discussing were all stunned. Their faces were about to crack. Wait, what did they just hear? Qing Zihuai was 2nd? Was the world of fantasy? F***CK. F***CK. What kind of operation is this? Qing Zihuai is the 2nd? Someone couldn't help but curse. What impression did Qing Zihuai have in Hingde? The unshakable status of a prodigy. Therefore, it was not surprising that he could surpass Leia. But what kind of immortal could actually kill Qing Zihuai? This is too crazy. Someone started whistling and clapping. God! The strongest dark horse of the year. The first person to tear Qing Zihuai apart is awesome. The audience laughed and jeered, while Qing Zihuai's expression was extremely ugly. Chapter 360. Initially, when he heard from below the stage that someone had beaten Leia, he was a little surprised. However, he did not expect to be beaten as well. Qing Zihuai's handsome face darkened, but he could only walk towards the rostrum, looking as if he had been greatly humiliated. At this moment, not only the students, even the teachers were stunned. Hingde was hiding such a dark horse. Beast. Immortal. She actually beat Qing Zihuai. She's indeed a ruthless person. Lu Yuanzi thought of his desk mate who didn't seem to like him saying beast, so he changed his words. With that said, he turned to look at Chu Zhixing, deliberately mocking Qing Zihuai. Brother Chu, guess who might be first? Master Pei. Chu Zhixing did not hesitate. It was so tiring to talk to this fatty. Qing Zihuai patted Bei Yunj's shoulder and could not help but ask, Master Pei, guess who's first? Bei Yunj frowned and said leisurely, I guess it's me. Lu Yuanzi was speechless. Why did these two come to school instead of taking their medicine? At this moment, even Teacher Wen rubbed his hands enviously and couldn't help but sigh. How nice. He didn't know which form teacher had led a dark horse student halfway. Suddenly, on the stage, Teacher Yi smiled and the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes deepened. I heard everyone's discussion and I know that everyone is curious and wants to know the score of the first place. Then let's announce it now. First place, Bei Yunj, 100 points for the competition. As soon as he finished speaking, The venue fell into a dead silence. Teacher Wen, who was rubbing his palms, froze and looked up abruptly. On the other hand, Lu Yuanxi, who was about to wake Pei Yunj up, choked on his words. What did that mean? Cool. Who was first place? Suddenly, someone couldn't help but exclaim, first place. Full marks. Pei Yunj. Was this a joke? It shouldn't be Pei Yunj. Soon, Cheng Zihuai's expression changed and he looked at Pei Yunj mockingly. He sneered without saying anything. She was really something. She even had the ability to get first place in the competition. But did she not think that anyone would be stupid enough to believe her? Pei Yunj cheated. Teacher, I want to report you. This isn't fair. How can Pei Yunj be the champion? That's right, how could she be number one? And full marks. Are people nowadays so arrogant when they cheat? Someone said indignantly. Especially the people in Class 1, their emotions were especially intense. If you don't know how to speak, then shut your mouth. Lu Yuanxi's cold voice slowly sounded with a warning tone. For a moment, those who wanted to mock Pei Yunj did not dare to provoke Lu Yuanxi, so they could only shut their mouths. Does she have the face to accept the award? If she's not allowed to talk about it, then she shouldn't have done it. The male straight-A student who had a grudge against Pei Yunj before had a gloomy look in his eyes and a mocking smile on his face. There was actually such an idiot. He actually cheated and got full marks. At this moment, on the stage, the principal was also very embarrassed. The dean's face was even darker. It was this Pei Yunj again. Even if she cheated and got first place, what was the use? With so many teachers from famous schools here, she was still embarrassing Hingde. Professor C, this matter is due to the bad character of our Hingde students. They cheated openly. I apologize to you on behalf of Hingde, the dean said through gritted teeth. Chapter 361. The dean did not notice anything unusual. Instead, he suppressed his anger and apologized with a fake smile. Yes, but Professor C, you don't have to report this matter to the higher-ups. Why don't you cancel the results and let Hingde settle it themselves? In such an important exam, once someone was found to be cheating, they would go to jail. However, if Pei Yunj was really arrested because of this, not only would it affect the other high-ranking students, but it would also affect Hingde's reputation. Dean, you're very biased against student Pei. Si Qingyan glanced at him and sneered coldly. Yes, before the dean could react, he instinctively agreed. Then, he felt that something was amiss. What do you mean? Just because the students below the stage shouted that they cheated a few times, you can come to a conclusion without any investigation. Si Qingyan's tone was cold and mocking. Is it because Hingde has always treated its students like this, or do you have any special opinions about me, the invigilator? The dean's expression was ugly and he panicked. No, Professor C, you've misunderstood. How would I dare to have any opinions about you? He had never expected Si Qingyan to have such a reaction to this matter. The others couldn't hear their conversation either. Look, Professor C's expression is so bad. Pei Yunj must have cheated. What else? Everyone knows what level Pei Yunj is at. It's not like Hingde is crazy to protect her at this time. Someone could not help but mock. How could there be such a stupid person in this world? Even cheating had to be known by everyone before he was satisfied. At this moment, Teacher Wen hurriedly walked to the dean and braced himself. Dean, actually, this might be a misunderstanding. Previously, Teacher Zhao in our class said that. Book bag net. Pei Yunj has potential. She might be able to surprise everyone. If there's really a misunderstanding in this matter, it can be resolved. Teacher Wen had long known that the dean did not like Bai Yunj, but what if something happened to Bai Yunj in his hands? Who knew? The next moment, the dean turned around mischievously and said with a smile, "Congratulations, Teacher Wen. Your student has gotten first place. You're really lucky." After saying this, Teacher Wen's entire body trembled, and he looked at the teaching director with an extremely shocked expression. Did he take the wrong medicine? He actually had such an attitude. Next, just as everyone on the field was discussing heatedly and Qing Zihuai was waiting for Bai Yunj's decision, the Dean of Teaching stood on the rostrum. "I hope that all of you will not slander others for no reason. If you think that anyone is cheating, you can call them immediately and leave a complaint to the competition organizer." The smiles on the faces of the people who had just mocked Bai Yunj froze when they heard the dean's stern words. What was the dean talking about? Did Bai Yunj still need someone to check if they could get first place? Isn't this obvious? The awards ceremony will continue. Any student who disrupts this grand occasion will be given a demerit. After the dean finished speaking, Qing Zihuai and the others, who were standing beside him, had already turned green and red. They were extremely embarrassed. What? If the award ceremony continued, wouldn't that mean they were going to be Bai Yunj's foil? Chapter 362. Teacher, Leia clenched her fists and was about to speak when Qing Zihuai stopped her. Qing Zihuai looked expressionless, but his tone was cold. Don't say any more. After the next exam, she'll spit out everything that needs to be spat out. Leia immediately understood when she heard that. The midterm exam was in a week. If Bai Yunj's physics results for the midterm exam were still the same as before, 20 to 30 points. Wasn't it clear how this result came about? Seeing Bai Yunj's lazy eyes, as if she had a clear conscience, Qing Zihuai and the rest looked even more embarrassed. Student pay, your certificate. All the best. The principal's hands were stiff as he tried his best to appear very loving. However, the atmosphere on the stage had already reached the peak of strangeness. Bai Yunj had already gotten full marks in the competition. Wasn't this fantastical enough? Many people felt that this scene was ridiculous and ironic. Suddenly, "I'm not here. Why are you giving the student an award?" Everyone turned around and saw Teacher Huang walking over with a dark expression. Everyone was excited. Teacher Huang was the person who was the least afraid of power and hated cheating. This time, he would definitely expose Bai Yunj's true colors. Everyone seemed to have vented their anger as they quietly waited for this scene to arrive. Who's first? Teacher Huang glanced at Teacher Yi, his tone ambiguous. Meanwhile, the smiles on the faces of Hingda's principal and teachers, which were already uglier than crying, were successfully broken. It's over. Even Teacher Huang was here this time. Hingda was going to be dragged down by Bai Yunj. This is Bai Yunj. Teacher Yi said gently. Teacher Huang frowned and his gaze landed on Bai Yunj. The girl's eyes were lazy and bright. Her beautiful eyes were curved, and she didn't look like a good student. You did very well this time. You're the first person to score full marks in the past 10 years that I've been setting the exam papers. Hearing Teacher Huang's words, Bai Yunj's eyes flickered and she did not say anything for a moment. Si Qingyan, who was beside her, almost couldn't help but laugh out loud when he saw Bai Yunj's strange and complicated gaze. Master Pei had really been wronged. His own student had won the International First Class Shinga Computer Competition Award, but it was not enough. At this moment, he was being praised because he had won first place in the National High School Physics Competition. The scene was too realistic. Thank you. Bai Yunj was silent for a long time. In the end, he could only reach out and pat him on the shoulder as encouragement. Mr. Huang, the principal was speechless. Everyone present, Si Qingyan couldn't hold it in anymore. He turned around and laughed until his shoulders trembled. Ha 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 ha. What kind of deity was Master Pei? Good luck to you too. I've seen your paper. The way you solved the questions is very unusual. Which teacher did you learn from? Teacher Huang was a person who loved talents. In the face of a talent like Bai Yunj, he was unbelievably kind. Bai Yunj said, Mr. Zhong Xinglin. Si Qingyan was speechless. Does old Master Zhong know about this? Mr. Zhong. No wonder when Elder Zhong was still in high school, no one could compare to him in science. A great teacher produces a great student. Teacher Huang nodded emotionally. His voice was neither too loud nor too soft, but many people present heard it clearly. Who? Mr. Zhong Xinglin. Could it be that Elder Zhong had given Bai Yunj a question this time? Some time ago, Elder Zhong had come to Hengda once, so Hengda had introduced him to the students. Such an outstanding researcher was tutoring Bai Yunj. What kind of good luck did Bai Yunj have? Chapter 363. For a moment, some people began to waver. Could it be that Elder Zhong had personally prepared the questions for Bai Yunj? Was that why she could do so well? However, most people still didn't believe it. No matter how powerful Elder Zhong was, everyone knew very well what kind of useless person Bai Yunj was. How could a student who usually scored 20 to 30 marks get full marks in the competition? This wasn't a monthly exam paper, but a competition paper. A competition paper written by teacher Huang Qi. The teachers of Hengda had different thoughts, but seeing that the principal didn't say anything, they all shut up. Until the end of the award ceremony. Bai Yunj was quickly called to the office. Other than teacher Zhao Yi, who taught Bai Yunj, the dean of teaching and the principal were also there. Representative, your results are real, right? Teacher Zhao Yi smiled. He wasn't doubting that her results were fake. It was just that he had always felt that Bai Yunj's results couldn't be only 20 to 30 marks. Previously, when he was punishing Bai Yunj by copying Bai Yunj's answers, he saw that Bai Yunj had finished copying once and then started to write from memory. With such amazing memory, did she look like someone who only scored 20 to 30 marks? Bai Yunj, how did you get the answers to the competition? The dean of teaching's voice was especially harsh. Director, I'm talking to my student. Can you please stop? Zhao Yi rolled his eyes without giving him any face. The dean of teaching was so angry that his face turned green and red. His student had done such a thing, and he still dared to defend her. Teacher Zhao, don't waste Bai Yunj's time, the principal reminded him. Hearing this, Zhao Yi cursed even more. If he didn't want to waste Bai Yunj's time, why didn't he ask her? Wasn't he just afraid that the Qin family would settle the score with him? Representative, just say it. I believe you. Zhao Yi turned his head and leaned back in his office chair with a smile. Number 5 Bai Yunj said calmly, you guessed right, Teacher Zhao. When Zhao Yi heard this, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Good girl. He was almost led by the nose by Bai Yunj. Alright, you can go back. You have to take the exam properly next time. Teacher Zhao Yi glanced at her and said calmly. Hearing this, the dean looked unwilling. Mr. Zhao Yi, aren't you too biased towards Bai Yunj? Before she could finish her question, she heard Bai Yunj say lazily, goodbye, teacher. Shortly after, Bai Yunj did not even look at her and left immediately. It was as if he, the head of teaching, didn't exist. Zhao Yi, are you going to let her go just like that? The dean was furious. Zhao Yi stopped drinking his tea and slowly glanced at him. You still want to treat her to a meal? The head of teaching, you. In any case, I believe my students. If you don't believe me, you can ask them yourself. Alright, I still have to mark the homework. Please be quiet for a while, director. After saying that, Zhao Yi began to pretend to mark homework. Seeing this scene, the principal was silent for a moment. Subsequently, the principal said, "Let's wait until next week's exam." When the dean of teaching heard this, he immediately reacted. That's right. If Bai Yunj really had this ability, her results for next week's physics exam would not be bad. On the other hand, it would prove that her results were fake. The dean of teaching thought of this and felt relieved. Chapter 364. After school. Bai Yunj was held back and was not allowed to leave. She glanced at Lu Yuanxi. What's the matter? To celebrate your first place today, let's go eat something. With that said, Lu Yuanxi hooked his arm around Chu Zhixing's neck. Isn't that right, brother Chu? Chu Zhixing's first reaction was to look at Bai Yunj. Yes. Master Pei, do you want to go? Without waiting for Chu Zhixing to finish speaking, Lu Yuanxi covered his mouth and smiled. Enough. She doesn't want to hear the last sentence. Bai Yunj, she didn't know what these two people were up to. At the barbecue stall, Bai Yunj glanced at her surroundings and had the urge to turn around and leave. You said you'd treat us here. This was the first time Bai Yunj came to a roadside stall to eat. Lu Yuanxi nodded matter-of-factly. Isn't it good? The grilled eggplants here are delicious. Bai Yunj's eyes moved. I still have something to do, or, Master Pei, don't embarrass me. Lu Yuanxi immediately stopped her with a handsome smile. Even the girls passing by couldn't help but take a few more glances at him. In the end, Bai Yunj was still sitting at a square table full of barbecue. Here. Seeing Lu Yuanxi hand the coke over, Bai Yunj glanced at the beer in his hand. She didn't say anything and silently took it. Otherwise, if Huishidu smelled the alcohol on her when they went back later, who knew what would happen? Don't give little Chu any alcohol. Bai Yunj glanced at him warningly. Lu Yuanxi, he could already imagine what would happen if his desk mate had a son in the future. Then, Lu Yuanxi didn't forget to get to the point. Master Pei, your results can't be real, right? So among the three of them, he was the only one who was really a bad student? In the past, he had been mocking Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj's hand stopped and she looked at Lu Yuanxi again. She didn't say anything. But this gaze already said everything. Lu Yuanxi almost cursed. This was actually real. Brother Lu, actually, Master Pei didn't do it on purpose. Chu Zhixing quickly explained. Unexpectedly, Lu Yuanxi turned his head and asked, So, you already knew? Chu Zhixing fell silent. Lu Yuanxi, out of three people's friendship, there would always be one extra. Bai Yunj suddenly said, I never said that my grades were bad. Lu Yuanxi. So, was she blaming him for placing too much trust in the exam results? After a while. After Lu Yuanxi calmed down, he started to seriously study. Otherwise, when he asked questions, would Bai Yunj and Chu Zhixing think he was stupid behind his back? Thinking of this, Lu Yuanxi looked at Bai Yunj and Chu Zhixing with an even colder gaze. Bai Yunj and Chu Zhixing, at this moment. A few people from the neighboring school sat at the table next to them. Do you know the boy who quit school for his girlfriend in grade 2 class 4? The boy asked mysteriously. I know. Back then, it was such an uproar and grand occasion. Another person shook his head. Many girls in our class felt that the boy was very infatuated. Infatuated my ass. That person continued to sneer. Do you know? That boy came back last week. His class asked for a long time before they found out that his girlfriend was crazy. She scared him back. Because the conversation at the table next to them was not solved, Bei Yunj, who was closer, also stopped and her gaze darkened. Chapter 365. Sick. What kind of sickness can she have? She's the prettiest girl in the 6th class and it's her first time in a relationship. The boy laughed suggestively. What are you thinking? Of course it's not that kind of illness. It's something that runs in her family. She's mentally ill. The boy pushed him and continued, if you're sick, why are you in a relationship? Who are you trying to kill? Bei Yunj picked up the chopsticks in her hand casually. There was no emotion in her eyes. Isn't it too noisy? Lu Yuanxi sensed that something was wrong with Bei Yunj. No. Bei Yunj rested her chin on her hand lazily. Before her elbow could touch the table, Lu Yuanxi stopped her. Then Bei Yunj saw him take a piece of tissue and put it under her elbow. He glanced at Bei Yunj in disdain and said, it's all oily. Why did he come here if he disliked it? Bei Yunj did not think much of it. Instead, she remembered what had happened that night and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, no one knew what had happened that night. After returning home, Bei Yunj went upstairs to take a shower. Sitting in front of the desk, scenes from her previous life appeared in her mind. One moment, it was that woman's gentle face. The next moment, it was that woman who seemed to be crying and laughing at the same time. Her eyes were gloomy as she strangled her and asked her if she wanted to die with her. When she was young, she hated that woman called Meng Ying. Because of that woman. Even her gentleness was fake. Whenever that woman went crazy, she would be covered in injuries. Sometimes, it would be smashed. Sometimes, it would be burned by cigarette butts. But every time she woke up the next day and saw that arrogant woman crying in front of her, she could not help but walk in front of her and hug her gently. But from then on, Bei Yunj knew for the first time that she was a failure. Meng Ying and that man's marriage was a failure. If it were not for her grandfather's insistence, she might not have survived. Bookish. But what Bei Yunj did not expect was that the woman was dead. The day before her 18th birthday, Meng Liang bought new kitchenware and texted Bei Yunj that she wanted to make a birthday cake for her. However, when Bei Yunj returned home, she saw Meng Liang putting an overdose of medicine into the cake with her own eyes. However, the next day, the cake made by Meng Ying fell to the ground. On the table was a box of chocolates and a teddy bear that Meng Liang had prepared. Meng Liang was dead. There was also a letter left for Bei Yunj on the ground. Before long, Bei Yunj heard a knock on the door, which pulled her back from her memories. Yun. Bei Yunj's expression was clear. She turned her head and said, Huh? What's wrong? The man's magnetic voice came through the bedroom door. Let's go downstairs for dinner. After Bei Yunj came back to her senses, she walked to the door and opened it. As soon as she looked up, she saw a tall and handsome man standing at the door. When Bei Yunj saw that he hadn't left, she instinctively asked, Brother, what are you doing here? I'm waiting for you to go down with me. Huashidu's casual gaze landed on Bei Yunj. He suddenly reached out and gently placed the back of his warm and slender fingers on her forehead. Yun, are you not feeling well? Bei Yunj raised her head and looked at him. No. Huashidu felt that the temperature on the little girl's forehead was normal and did not say anything. However, he still noticed that Bei Yunj was not interested. After going downstairs. Chapter 366. Yun, are the dishes not to your liking today? The man suddenly spoke. No. Bei Yunj looked up instinctively. Maybe I went to eat with my friends after school. I see. Then, brother will accompany you to shop later. As soon as Huashidu finished speaking, Bei Yunj's phone screen lit up. Bei Yunj glanced sideways and saw the caller ID clearly. Ji Yiqing. Before Bei Yunj could answer, she saw Huashidu reach out even faster and hang up naturally. Huashidu curled his lips. If there's anything, let's talk tomorrow. Bei Yunj. Okay. On the other side, Ji Yiqing was confused because the call had been hung up on. Had he been hung up on just now? Could it be that he had accidentally offended Miss Pei in the past 2 days? Bei Yunj, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, turned to look at him. Brother, where are we going? The man's side profile was superior, and his handsome eyes were noble and lazy. His shirt was rolled up elegantly, revealing a small section of his elegant forearm. I'll take you to relax. Bei Yunj was stunned for a moment, then quietly looked at the scenery outside the car window. Not long after, Bei Yunj arrived at the entrance of an archery club. President Hua. The lady at the front desk saw Huashidu bringing a young girl over and could not help but be surprised. Then, she asked respectfully, "Are you too?" "Yes." "Then, miss, please follow me." The lady at the front desk smiled and led Bei Yunj to the changing room. However, she could not help but be curious about the relationship between this overly beautiful girl and Huashidu. After all, this was the first girl President Hua had brought. After changing, Bei Yunj followed the lady at the front desk into the room. "Don't you need to get the bow?" The lady at the front desk reacted and smiled. "No need. President Hua has left 2 bows with us. Someone has already gone to get them for you." Bei Yunj did not expect Huashidu to come to this place often in the past. However, after thinking about it, Bei Yunj remembered that she had accidentally touched the man's firm and muscular abdomen last time. It did seem like he had been practicing all this time. It felt good to the touch. It was hard, and he wondered what it would be like if he took it off. After Bei Yunj came back to her senses, she quickly diverted her attention to prevent herself from thinking too much. "Miss Pei, President Hua is over there." The receptionist reminded her. Bei Yunj followed her gaze. Seeing the way the man held the bow and arrow, he was no longer as lazy as usual. His elegant and noble eyes were indifferent and focused, which was particularly eye-catching. Subsequently, he loosened the bowstring between his slender fingers and hit the 10th ring. He looked very relaxed. However, this was a distance of 50 meters. Very few people could be so accurate. After all, the usual archery range only had a range of 10 to 20 meters. The receptionist suppressed the admiration and excitement in her eyes and whispered to Bei Yunj with a red face, "Miss, let me take you there." Bei Yunj, invisible seduction was the most deadly. "Yun, do you want to try?" In the blink of an eye, Huashidu saw Bei Yunj walking over. He laughed lightly and made way for the arrow. "I've never practiced 50 meters of archery before." Bei Yunj looked at the target in the distance and then at Huashidu. When the man heard this, his deep and magnetic laughter flowed out along with his sexy Adam's apple, making people's ears itch. "It's okay, brother will teach you." After speaking, the man picked up a pair of black leather gloves and slowly put them on for Bei Yunj. Chapter 367. When this scene landed in the eyes of the receptionist, pink bubbles inexplicably appeared in her heart. President Hua and this young lady looked too much like a couple. This was the first time the receptionist had seen Huashidu doting on a young lady so much that he even personally put on gloves for her. Not only the receptionist, but many other people in the venue also noticed the scene in the VIP area. After Bei Yunj drew the bow, she closed her right eye and aimed at the bullseye. Suddenly, the man behind her covered the back of her hand with his warm fingertips. The man's light and deep voice was tainted with a bewitching magnetism. Along with his warm breath, it tickled her ears. "Move over a little." Bei Yunj was so agitated that her entire body trembled slightly. Her ears were slightly hot, and her entire body was surrounded by the man's cold and pleasant smell. It gave her an inexplicable sense of security. Bei Yunj, how could she concentrate on shooting? Bei Yunj's thoughts had long drifted away. Her back, which was close to the man's chest, seemed to be able to feel the man's body temperature and the beating of his heart through a thin layer of clothing. Let go. As Huishidu's deep voice sounded, Bei Yunj let go of her hand without even looking. She originally thought that it might be difficult to even hit the target this time, but she did not expect the man behind her to adjust for her and hit the bullseye. The next moment, a mischievous look flashed across the man's eyes. His gaze was frivolous as he asked casually, Yun, I'm teaching you how to shoot. How can you learn when you keep watching me? Bei Yunj looked at him with her beautiful eyes. After a moment, she said, Brother. Yes. You're too close to me. It's hard to focus. Bei Yunj did not hide why she was distracted at all, but her eyes were clear and serious. Hearing this, the man could not help but laugh. His low and lazy magnetic voice had a hint of a smile in it, which made people's faces turn red. All right, then I'll stay away from Yun. Huishidu nodded and moved aside to let Bei Yunj practice by herself. Battle Bei Yunj had tried shooting targets with air rifles and short-range archery, so he quickly got the hang of it. Not far away, Huishidu's lips curled up slightly when he saw the unhappiness in the young lady's eyes dissipate. She didn't know what was wrong with the child, but he was so unhappy today. President Hua. Suddenly, the manager walked over from the side and shouted in a low voice. Huishidu glanced sideways at him. Why? President Fu has booked a private room, please have a seat there. The manager said carefully. Hearing this, the man's gaze was still fixed on Bei Yunj in the distance. He said lazily, I'm not free. The manager, is it important for you to stand here and watch people shoot? However, the manager did not dare to ask. He tried to persuade him carefully. President Fu might have something to talk to you about. Or, should I invite President Fu over? Hearing this, the man's eyes darkened and he glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. We'll talk about it later. For the past 2 years, Fu Yanbai had always liked to bring along female companions in their early 20s. When he came over, he would inevitably see Bei Yunj. Soon. Bei Yunj had already mastered the shooting skills. Her hit rate soared, and the shop assistant beside her was stunned. Was this a beginner? Wasn't she learning too quickly? Yun, come and have something to drink. Hearing the man's voice not far away, Bei Yunj put down her bow and arrow. Brother, was someone looking for you just now? Chapter 368. In other words, he was telling Fu Yanbai that Huishidu was indeed not free. Even if Master Du was only watching from the side. However, when the woman in the man's arms heard this, a dark look flashed past her eyes. She might know who the lady the manager was talking about was. Back then, if she had not offended this person, Master Du would not have chased her out of the whole corporation and never hired her again. Yu Qianya gritted her teeth and hid the malice in her eyes. Although she was lucky enough to be fancied by Fu Yanbai after leaving the whole corporation, she could not help but be afraid. After all, Fu Yanbai's female companions for the past 2 years were not older than 26 years old. Very few people could stay by his side for 2 months. Moreover, she felt that Fu Yanbai seemed to be starting to get tired of her. Fu Yanbai raised his eyebrows and interest appeared in his eyes. Master Du has a lady. This news was a rare thing for anyone to hear. Yes. The manager nodded. Unexpectedly, Yu Qianya hugged Fu Yanbai's arm and smiled. President Fu and Master Du are so close. Why don't we go and see what kind of girl Master Du has brought? She knew in her heart that Fu Yanbai was most interested in young girls in their early 20s. And that girl looked at most 20 years old. Yu Qinya thought about it and did not think that Bei Yunji's status could be very noble. On the contrary, it was more likely that she was Huashidu's female companion. If that was the case, if Fu Yanbai was interested in Bei Yunji, would Huashidu not even be willing to part with a female companion? Thinking of this, Yu Qinya could not help but smile as if she had vented her anger. Yes, we have to see who can capture Master Du. Fu Yanbai lowered his eyes and smiled. Seeing Yu Qinya leaning over, he naturally and lazily held her chin and kissed her gently. This scene made the manager lower his head even more. Not long after, Bei Yunji had already mastered the shooting skills and her hit rate was rising. The shop assistant beside her was stunned. Was this a beginner? Wasn't she learning too quickly? Yun, come and have something to drink. Hearing the man's voice not far away, Bei Yunji put down her bow and narrow. Brother, someone was looking for you just now. Bei Yunji also caught a glimpse of the conversation between the manager and Huashidu. Yes. Huashidu handed her a glass of orange juice and lazily tidied Bei Yunji's slightly messy hair. Bei Yunji saw that Huashidu did not say much, so she did not ask. She slowly glanced at the air rifle field not far away and became a little more interested. Yun. Huashidu had just spoken when the phone in his pocket rang at an inappropriate time. Bei Yunji turned around and said, Brother, go and answer the phone. I'll go over there and try. Huashidu glanced at the name on his phone. Ji Yiqing. His eyes gradually became unclear, and he smiled again. Okay, I'll come back when I'm done. However, unexpectedly, not long after Huashidu left, Bei Yunji walked to the entrance of the archery path. She had just wiped her air rifle when an ear-piercing sound drifted into her ears. I really didn't expect that I would have the chance to meet you in this life, Mississippi. Bei Yunji turned around and saw a handsome young man and a familiar-looking woman. You are. Bei Yunji did not recognize her and only asked leisurely. These words made Yu Qinya's face turn red, as if she had been greatly humiliated. Her eyes sparkled as she sneered, Miss, a noble person has short memories. Back then, in the Hua Corporation, I received a lot of favors from you. Chapter 369. Hearing this, Bei Yunji seemed to remember such a person. She seemed to be a secretary. Bei Yunji turned around and continued to test her gun. She said lazily, Don't stand on ceremony. Hearing this, Yu Qinya's face turned red. Suddenly, the strange man who had been silent all this while had a possessive look in his eyes. He stared at her and asked, You're Master Du's female companion. Bei Yunji's first instinct was that this man was looking at her in a very uncomfortable way. Does this have something to do with Sir? She did not even look at him and continued to test her gun after shooting. Yu Qinya could not help but feel nervous and looked at Fu Yanbai. She thought that Fu Yanbai would blame Bei Yunji for being rude. But she did not expect Fu Yanbai's eyes to be glued to her. He really liked Bei Yunji. Yu Qinya felt jealous and said arrogantly, Miss, this is Master Du's friend, President Fu. Isn't your attitude a little arrogant? A faint impatience and coldness appeared in Bei Yunji's eyes. She suddenly laughed. Her eyebrows were arrogant and her tone was lazy. So what if I am? Yu Qinya's face turned green. However, the look in Fu Yanbai's eyes became even more intense. This gaze was exactly the same as the first time Yu Ling looked at him. Soon, the shop assistant ran over and smiled carefully. I'm sorry, the VIP area has been booked today. If you still want to play, I'm afraid you'll have to go to the ordinary area. These words. Yu Qinya could not help but look at Bei Yunji with jealousy in her eyes. They were both female companions, why was Master Du so nice to her? Eugenia laughed and deliberately raised her voice. I didn't expect Miss to be so good at coaxing men at such a young age. Her words shocked the shop assistant. She did not expect Eugenia to say this in public. Eugenia. Fu Yanbai glanced at her with a warning look in his eyes. He had brought Eugenia with him because she looked a little like Yuling when she smiled. But the more he interacted with her, the more he felt that this woman was vulgar. However, Bai Yunj suddenly laughed, looking lazy and flirtatious. You're good at coaxing men. That's impressive. Eugenia's face stiffened, and the shop assistant's face turned red. When these words came out of this young lady's mouth, there was an inexplicable sense of ambiguity. Eugenia bit her lip and blurted out, shameless. As soon as he finished speaking, the person who was practicing suddenly turned his gun. Before anyone could react, he pulled the trigger at Eugenia. Eugenia was so frightened that she couldn't help but scream. Not only Eugenia, but even the shop assistant was shocked. Fortunately, the bullet didn't hit anyone. After all, even an air rifle could easily injure people. If Bai Yunj had aimed the gun at Eugenia's face, it would probably have left a scar. At this moment, Eugenia woke up with a pale face and a weak body. That was because the bullet just now seemed to have scraped past her ear. Her ear was still burning with pain. Bai Yunj glanced at her and sneered slowly. So you can still shut up. Then I'll have to trouble you to work harder today and keep your mouth shut. Her cold words didn't allow anyone to comment. Eugenia's eyes reddened. She didn't expect Bai Yunj to treat her like this. Sir, why don't I take you and Miss to rest for a while? The shop assistant was really afraid that Bai Yunj would shoot her in the head. P.S. Holding an air rifle won't disfigure you. If you come out to diss me, you can check if the air rifle accidentally injured people and the death situation. Brainless comments will be deleted. End of this chapter. Chapter 370. They could not afford to offend President Fu. But they could not afford to offend President Hua. However, at this moment, Eugenia was so angry that her whole body was trembling. When she saw that Bai Yunj only scored 3 or 4 points, she could not help but sneer. What's the point of playing alone? If you're not afraid of losing, why don't you compete with me? Originally, she had accompanied Fu Yanbai here today to please him. After all, she was very good at shooting sports. But now, she had made up her mind to embarrass Bai Yunj on the spot. Bai Yunj's beautiful eyes were cold as she glanced at her indifferently. She smirked. You? Not at school. In her previous life, when Bai Yunj returned to the Pei family to inherit the family business, she had seen many female companions at the bar. But most of them were sensible. They knew their own status and could not cause trouble. As for the one in front of her, she was obviously brainless. Eugenia was furious. How could she not tell that Bai Yunj did not want to talk to her at all? Eugenia turned her head and begged the man beside her. President Fu, I just want to compete with Master Du's wife. Fu Yanbai glanced at her coldly, but his gaze landed on Bai Yunj again. He smiled. Sister, you don't want to. Previously, he had thought that Bai Yunj's personality was similar to Yuling's. But when Bai Yunj pointed her gun at Eugenia just now, he also felt that this girl was much wilder than Yuling. At least, Yuling would not dare to do such a thing. The impatience and coldness in Bai Yunj's eyes could not be suppressed. However, in the next moment, Yun. Not far away, the man's magnetic voice sounded, causing the hostility in Bai Yunj's eyes to dissipate. Brother. Her eyes curved. Compared to the way she ignored everyone just now, Yunj was much more obedient now. When Yuchinya heard this familiar voice, she froze and could not help but look at the man who was walking over. However, the man's gaze only landed on one person from the beginning to the end. "What are you doing here?" Hwashidu glanced at the others indifferently and finally asked Yunj. "Someone wants to compete with me in shooting." Yunj felt Yuchinya's eyes on Hwashidu and the corners of her lips curled up. She took a step closer to the man and naturally held Hwashidu's shirt. This scene almost made Yuchinya's eyes spit fire. But who would have thought? Hwashidu did not shake off Yunj. His gaze only landed on Fu Yenbai. "Are you very free?" Fu Yenbai laughed instead. "Master Du has a good eye for female companions." "How can this be a female companion?" The man stretched out his hand lazily and casually scratched Yunj's chin. His magnetic voice was so casual that it made people's ears go soft. "This is the ancestor of the family." After saying this, everyone else was stunned. Not only Yuchinya, but even Fu Yenbai's smile froze. Hwashidu had always been pure and had few desires. He had never seen him treat other women differently. However, the person in front of him was the first one. "Who do you want to compete with her?" The man with clear eyes turned his head lazily again. It was obvious that he wanted to find trouble with Fu Yenbai for this girl. "Master Du, do you have to be so unhappy?" Fu Yenbai smiled. But everyone knew in their hearts. Fu Yenbai wanted Yuchinya to compete with Yunj. That was obvious. He treated Yunj as Hwashidu's lover. Similarly, Yuchinya looked at Hwashidu and Yunj standing together and resentment rose in her heart. Chapter 371. Suddenly. "It's not that I don't want to." Then, Yunj curved her lips and her eyes were frighteningly cold. "That will depend on what President Fu is willing to use as the wager." Fu Yenbai smiled. "What do you want, sister? Is the Fu Corporation okay too?" The girl's slow question made the entire place fall into silence. This sister seemed to be a ruthless person. "Yunyun, I'm afraid President Fu can't make this decision. But President Fu can still afford 5% of the Fu Corporation's shares." The man let out a long laugh and said unhurriedly. It was obvious that Hwashidu was going to support this girl. Fu Yenbai smiled. "If Yaya wins, how much will President Hua have to fork out?" 5% of the Hua Corporation. The man did not care. Hearing this, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't expect that such a simple competition would have such high stakes. 5% of the Fu Corporation could not be compared to 5% of the Hua Corporation. Fu Yenbai came back to his senses. "I didn't expect Master Du to be so reckless. I'm just making my child happy." The man's lazy tone was indescribably indulgent. Then, he naturally held the girl's wrist and led her to the archery path at the side. Yunj felt the dry and warm palm on her wrist and her heart inexplicably skipped a few beats. "There's a reason why brother has so many rotten peach blossoms." Yunj walked beside the male actor and said in a double volume. This man could easily show just the right amount of intimacy. It made people's hearts throb and jump for joy. They wanted to take ing. When Hwashidu heard this, he raised his eyebrows slightly. He looked casual and frivolous. But brother doesn't have a headache about rotten peach blossoms. He only has a headache about the ingrates at home. Yunj, Yuchinya, who was following behind, did not hear the conversation clearly, but her gaze was fixed on the man who took the initiative to hold Yunj's hand. It was just as she had thought in the past. For a cold and abstinent man like Hwashidu, once he was tainted by love, how terrible would he look? Even favoritism was enough to make one's heart beat wildly. But the person who pulled him down from the altar was another woman. Yu Qianya unconsciously clenched her fists. Jealousy and anger intertwined in her heart. The malice in her eyes was even more frightening. In front of the arrow path, Yu Qianya's face was cold. She tried her best not to make her face look distorted. How about we each shoot 10 times and see the total score? Major. Looking at Bei Yunji's indifferent expression, Yu Qianya couldn't help but sneer. Alright, I'll go first. Yu Qianya walked in front of the archery path and confidently picked up the air rifle, ready to work. Not long after, gunshots rang out one after another. The shop assistant beside him, who was counting the rings, had a look of admiration. Yu Qianya was indeed good at this. Out of the 10 gunshots, the lowest one was a 6-ring one. The rest were stable at 7 or 8 rings, and there was even a 10th ring. One had to know that the target used for the 10-meter standard archery track was very close to the standard target of the international competition. Although the difficulty was reduced by a lot, it was still difficult to hit the bullseye. 6 rings once, 7 rings 4 times, 8 rings 3 times, 9 rings once, and 10 rings once. The total number of rings is 77. Hearing that the results were better than usual, Yu Qianya's eyes were filled with pride. Not far away, Fu Yanbai also smiled with interest. Master Du, I think I'm going to win this round. Is that so? Hua Shidu didn't seem to care. Bei Yunji might lose 5% of the Hua Corporation's shares. It's your turn now. Yu Qianya walked up to Bei Yunji arrogantly. Bei Yunji ignored her. Instead, he glanced at the man not far away. His upturned eyes curved slightly. Not long after, everyone saw this unfamiliar girl in front of them. She only adjusted for about half a minute before aiming. Chapter 372. Before anyone could react, the sound of gunshots suddenly rang out. This was completely unlike Yu Qianya, who would stop and adjust after shooting just now. The sound of gunshots almost didn't seem to be interrupted. It made people wonder if the person who was shooting now knew how to shoot. However, the result was unexpected. The shop assistant was stunned for a moment before he hurriedly said, 9 points. When they heard the lowest score, everyone froze. Yu Qianya, who was originally full of smugness, had a distorted expression. When Bei Yunji was testing the gun just now, she didn't even get a high score. But what was going on now? 9 times, 10 points. This was the second time the shop assistant had encountered such a godly result. He almost suspected that he was in a dream. Was this result serious? Was this really not a godly person? How is this possible? Yu Qianya subconsciously blurted out, her face pale. However, after Bei Yunji put down the gun, she turned around and smiled at Hua Shidu. Her bright eyes were full of high spirits. Brother, I won. Seeing Bei Yunji turn around and look at him with a pair of sparkling eyes, Hua Shidu inexplicably felt something tickle his heart. It was itchy and made his heart flutter slightly. Hua Shidu's eyes gradually darkened and hid all the light. He suddenly walked towards her and casually reached out to help Bei Yunji tidy the clothes that were tied around her waist. He curled his lips and laughed hoarsely. Yes, amazing. This scene was indescribably doting. It was simply fatal. Many female friends around them felt their teenage hearts reignite. However, Yu Qianya's face turned pale. She subconsciously took a step back and was a little distracted. How could this be? This woman was deliberately lying to her. This woman clearly knew how to shoot, but she deliberately didn't. Wasn't it obvious that she wanted to see her make a fool of herself? At this moment, unexpectedly, Fu Yanbai's expression was not bad. Instead, he looked at Bei Yunji with even more passion. He didn't expect the girl beside Hwashidu to be so powerful. Hwashidu had really picked up a treasure. Suddenly, I almost forgot about President Fu's bet. Bei Yunji's voice sounded. Yuchinya bit her lip and stared at Bei Yunji. She couldn't stop complaining. You did it on purpose. You obviously know how to do it, yet you still want to compete with me. I don't know how to do it. Why should I compete with you? Bei Yunji sneered. These words made Yuchinya's face turn red. It's time for President Fu to fulfill his promise. Bei Yunji wiped his hands slowly, but there was no warmth in his beautiful eyes, and the curve of his lips was cold. Hearing this, Yuchinya subconsciously looked at Fu Yanbai. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, and one couldn't help but be moved. Fu Yanbai spoke. When the time comes, I'll have someone draft the agreement and send it to Master Du. Before Yuchinya could heave a sigh of relief, he looked at her again and said coldly, You don't have to follow me anymore. In an instant, Yuchinya's face was pale, and she was trembling all over. She didn't expect Fu Yanbai to treat her like this in public. President Fu, Before Yuchinya could say anything, she met Fu Yanbai's cold gaze and subconsciously didn't dare to say anything. But when she turned around, when she saw Bei Yunji, her expression became indignant again. What right did this person have to be chosen by Hwashidu? What right did she have to be stepped on by this person? She looked at Bei Yunji and couldn't help but mock, Are you very proud? But no matter how proud you are, you're just a person who relied on fishing men to get to where you are. As soon as she finished speaking, Yuchinya didn't notice that Hwashidu's gaze had become colder. The atmosphere became even colder. Before anyone could guess, Hwashidu suddenly said, Ask your manager to come over. Hearing this, the staff quickly nodded and immediately called the manager to deal with the situation. When the others saw this scene, they also knew that Yuchinya had completely offended this gentleman. Yuchinya was also afraid, but she didn't want to believe that Hwashidu really didn't have any intention of taking pity on her. Then, she heard the manager's voice. President Hwa, why are you looking for me? The manager said with a fawning smile. Your boss's biological sister is being bullied in his shop. Do you still need me to settle this matter? Hwashidu's unhurried voice sounded. However, when the manager heard this, he was stunned. The boss's sister. The people around also regained their senses. This archery hall was opened by Qin Yu. The boss's sister. Wasn't she the eldest sister of the Qin family? Everyone was in disbelief. They didn't expect to meet the eldest sister of the Qin family, who would make the headlines from time to time. The manager was even more stunned. Why eldest sister? He never thought that President Hwa would not bring along a young female companion, but his boss's sister. What was going on? Bei Yunji also furrowed her eyebrows quietly. She didn't expect this to be Qin Yu's place. Impossible. She's the Qin family's sister. Yuchinya's expression changed immediately and she could not continue speaking, as if she had been struck by lightning. After all, everyone still remembered clearly that the Qin family had spent hundreds of millions to celebrate Bei Yunji's birthday. If you don't handle this well, your boss will talk to you. Hwashidu said calmly. Hearing this, the manager shivered. He had long heard about how much their boss doted on his sister. If his boss found out that his biological sister was being bullied here, he, as the manager, might be done for. However, what made him angry but not dare to say anything was that this master only told him now. When he first came in, he didn't even inform him. Otherwise, he would have arranged for at least 4 security guards to follow Bei Yunji. No matter what, eldest sister was the most important. The manager took a deep breath and smiled. I'll settle this for eldest sister. Don't worry. With that said, the manager looked at Bei Yunji, his gaze becoming even more amiable. If eldest sister wants to play in the future, just call me in advance. I'll empty the VIP area for eldest sister. Seeing this treatment, Eugenia finally knew how far apart she was from this woman in front of her. Eugenia's legs turned to jelly. She didn't expect to really kick an iron board this time. Bae-yun replied casually and looked at Washidu. Brother, let's go back. Okay. The moment Washidu finished speaking, Fu Yenbai's gaze darkened. Then, before he could follow, the woman beside him grabbed his wrist. President Fu. President Fu, I was wrong. Can you forgive me? A trace of coldness and impatience flashed past Fu Yenbai's eyes. Watching as Washidu and Washidu left, he shook Eugenia off and didn't say anything. He didn't care how badly the woman behind him was crying. Outside the door. President Hua is leaving so quickly. Aren't you willing to bring Sister Pei to have dinner with me? Chapter 373. Fu Yenbai, who had chased after her, kept staring at Bae-yun. There was a hint of a smile in his refined eyes, but his gaze made people feel uncomfortable. Hearing this, Bae-yun's expression when she was talking to Washidu just now was gone. Her beautiful eyes were cold. She could feel that he had a motive. Suddenly, the man beside her held Bae-yun's hand. His warm palm stunned Bae-yun. Washidu's tone was casual. There's no need. Fu Yenbai put out the cigarette in his hand. He did not hide his interest in Bae-yun. His gaze was filled with possessiveness. Master Du, consider it as doing me a favor this time. How about giving me a girl? He could tell that this girl treated Washidu differently from the others. But with Washidu's status, what kind of woman couldn't he want? Who would think? The man only sneered softly, as if there was a hint of disdain and coldness in his voice. He held the girl's hand and said in a low and magnetic voice, Fu Yenbai, this child is mine. Hearing this, Fu Yenbai was stunned for a moment. He obviously did not expect Washidu to give such an answer. President Hua, you're not someone who cares about women. Fu Yenbai clenched his fists, his gaze still on Bae-yun. Fu Yenbai, how can you go crazy? The corners of the man's upturned eyes were charming, but there was no warmth in his pale-colored pupils. His unhurried voice was gentle but cold. But if anyone dares to touch my child, I will personally cripple half of his life. Bae-yun looked sideways. She saw the man's handsome side profile. He looked casual, but it made her heart flutter. President Hua, you know that she looks like Yuling. Fu Yenbai was unwilling to accept it. Washidu sneered. No one can compare to my girl. Don't have any ideas about my people. Otherwise, with old Master Fu around, I don't mind teaching you how to be a person on his behalf. After that, Washidu left with Bae-yun. Fu Yenbai was left standing on the spot with a terrifying gaze and his hands clenched into fists. Outside the door, Bae-yun looked at Washidu. Brother. This was the first time she saw Washidu like this. After a while, Washidu's expression gradually returned to normal. He smiled and pinched her face casually. Did you scare our union? No, Sakura. Bae-yun asked subconsciously, what's wrong with that person? How could he be so obsessed with someone he met for the first time? If you see him in the future, make a detour. Washidu explained slowly and added, this is a lunatic. 2 years ago, he forced the woman he liked to jump into the sea. All these years, Fu Yenbai had been looking for the whereabouts of that woman. She heard that the young female companions beside Fu Yenbai all looked a little like that woman. Do I look like the person he likes? Bae-yun recalled Fu Yenbai's words just now. Washidu's gaze landed on her. Just as Bei Yunj felt a little awkward and wanted to turn her face away, the man suddenly approached her. He looked at her and smiled. His low and magnetic voice carried a hint of warmth that seemed to be able to stir the wind by her ears. You don't look like it. Our union is unique. Bei Yunj, why did this man always feel like he was whispering sweet nothings? Brother, don't you have something to talk to me about? Bei Yunj changed the topic. The man seemed to pause for a moment before he chuckled hoarsely. Yes, there's something. When Bei Yunj heard this, she instinctively looked up. Unexpectedly, she met the man's dark eyes. There was an inexplicable sense of aggression as he stared straight at her. Chapter 374. Bei Yunj instinctively looked up when she heard this. Unexpectedly, she bumped into the man's dark and indistinct eyes. They were staring straight at her with an inexplicable sense of aggression. Bei Yunj quickly turned her face away. Brother, why don't we go back and, before she could finish her sentence. Yun, can you do me a favor? The man suddenly said. What? As soon as Bei Yunj finished speaking, the man suddenly grabbed her wrist. Before she could react, the force on her wrist increased slightly. Then, the forward inertia caused her to fall directly into a warm and firm chest. The surrounding fragrance was getting stronger and stronger, making one's heart palpitate. Huashidu felt his heart beating faster, and his thin red lips curled up slightly. His pale-colored pupils were devoid of desire, but the corners of his upturned eyes were seductive, especially at this moment. His lazy and frivolous eyes carried a gentle ambiguity, ostentatious and seductive. So that's how it is. Bei Yunj was still confused. She only heard the man's laughter and his low and magnetic voice as he muttered to himself. Brother, what did you say? Bei Yunj's ears went soft. Seeing that Huashidu had let go of her slightly, she asked again. Unexpectedly, the man only looked at her for a while before reaching out to pinch her cheek. He chuckled happily. It's nothing. You'll know when you get older. Bei Yunj, why did she feel that this man was very strange today? Suddenly. Just as they walked into the parking lot, the man asked, Yun, do you have a university that you like? No. Bei Yunj did not hesitate. Then what about Yun University? Huashidu asked slowly. Bei Yunj looked at him instinctively and did not speak. Yuncheng University was the best school in the country. However, she had always thought that Huashidu allowed her to choose a school. 2K then, Huashidu turned to look at her. His deep and lazy voice sounded again. I want you to stay in Yuncheng. The corners of his lips curled up, and he dragged his voice, as if he was deliberately seducing her. He could easily bewitch her. So, Yun, work hard for me, okay? At the Computing Institute. The man at the door sat helplessly on the ground, his eyes empty. Ji Iching didn't know how to comfort him. Boss, will you really be alright? The man's voice was hoarse, and he could not help but gently press his sore eyes with the base of his palm. He was the third spy in Ji Iching's mission. But he didn't expect that the group of people would find his wife of a year and take her away yesterday. Ah, Bao, we will find sister-in-law. Ji Iching patted his shoulder to comfort him. But in fact, he wasn't sure either. After all, no one could imagine what those people could do. Female hostages were often more dangerous than male hostages. In the research lab, the family of the undercover agent was kidnapped. This is too difficult to control. Zhong Xinglin subconsciously took a deep breath. Bei Yunj sat in front of the computer. After a while, she said, let the spy in. I have something to tell him. Zhong Xinglin frowned subconsciously. Actually, Zhong Xinglin did not want Bei Yunj to interfere out of selfishness. After all, that was not Bei Yunj's responsibility. As a scientific researcher, it was difficult for him to predict how much Bei Yunj could push the country's computing field forward in the future. Therefore, he did not want Bei Yunj to take the risk. Elder Zhong, don't worry. I'll be fine. Chapter 375. But who would have thought that the next moment, they heard Zhong Xinglin speak. I'm looking for you. You can go in alone. Zhong Xinglin looked at Ah Bao and said. When Ji Yiqing heard this, he also understood that her identity was confidential. Ordinary people could not see her. Go ahead. Ji Yiqing patted Ah Bao's shoulder. Ah Bao wiped the corners of his eyes and quickly composed himself. He nodded and stood up. Okay. At the door. Ah Bao knocked on the door and slowly walked in. He called softly, Miss. Suddenly. Come here. A young and clear voice sounded, which surprised Ah Bao. But what surprised him even more was that the girl in front of him was unbelievably beautiful. He would never have thought that such a girl would be, Miss. Ah Bao was a little uncertain. Bei Yunj glanced at him and smiled. Have a seat. I have something to ask you. Ah Bao sat down a little cautiously. Okay. How do you usually contact them? Bei Yunj's question confused Ah Bao. When I went undercover, I didn't get through to the internal department. Usually, it's only them who contact me. After Ah Bao finished speaking, he couldn't help but ask carefully, why are you asking about this? A few days ago, I destroyed the computer that they usually use. Now I can't talk to them, Bei Yunj said casually. Ah Bao, maybe they don't really want to talk to you. Not long after. Ah Bao remembered that a group of people used human organs to threaten Bei Yunj some time ago. He probably didn't expect to provoke someone who was so vengeful. Miss, can you save my wife? Ah Bao lowered his head and unconsciously clenched his fists. He also didn't expect that there would be a day when he would need someone to save him. Bei Yunj looked at him and didn't answer this question. They will contact you. Wait for a while. Why? Ah Bao asked. Bei Yunj played with the fountain pen in her hand. Her lowered eyes couldn't see her emotions. Because they are afraid. Bei Yunj could break into their computer through a chip that was being monitored. They should have known better that she might have taken away all the data on the computer. They wanted to take hostages to change the situation. A few days later. When Bei Yunj returned to Hengda, she found that a large group of people often gathered outside. Master Pei, what are you looking at? On the way, they bumped into Bei Yunj's Lu Yuanxi, who patted her on the shoulder. Bei Yunj glanced at Lu Yuanxi before looking away. Hengda is in debt. At first, Lu Yuanxi did not understand what Bei Yunj meant until he saw the young fans around him. They were like a group of debt collectors. What are you talking about, Master Pei? This year, the Qin family donated a building because of you. With you around, Hengda will not fall, Lu Yuanxi said gently. Bei Yunj, Lu Yuanxi stopped joking. Those people are Qin Youjiao's fans. Don't you know that she has entered the entertainment industry? I don't know. Bei Yunj was not interested in Qin Youjiao's matters. I heard that she's only the female lead of a music video, but the singer is quite popular and everyone likes this music video, so she has a wave of fans. Lu Yuanxi had seen other boys watch Qin Youjiao's music videos many times. It had to be said that Qin Youjiao had the face of a first love. It was a face that straight men could not resist. Deskmate, why don't you enter the entertainment industry too? Your second brother's music video might become even more popular. Chapter 376. Lu Unc started to come up with bad ideas. However, with Bei Yunji's looks, she did have the capital to become famous in the entertainment industry. Even Qin Youjiao's face, which was that of her first love, would look plain next to Bei Yunji. It's too troublesome, Bei Yunji said slowly. Lu Unc, who already knew that Bei Yunji was lazy, was not surprised. However, before Lu Unc could speak, Teacher Wen's anxious voice could be heard not too far away. Bei Yunji, why are you still here? Didn't you see the notice I sent you? Do you have to go to Yun University today? Bei Yunji asked in return. Yun University. Yes, the few of you who won prizes in the physics competition can follow the lead teacher to visit Yun University. If you perform well, the chances of independent enrollment next year will be higher. Hearing Teacher Wen say this, Lu Unc, who was beside him, finally felt the difference between him and his desk mate. Just a few days ago, they were desk mates who had been scolded together. Now, his desk mate had become a top student and he was the only one struggling alone in the sea of learning. Now, Bei Yunji furrowed her eyebrows unconsciously. Yes, the school bus is waiting for you. Let's hurry. With that said, Teacher Wen pushed Bei Yunji towards the school bus in the distance. Seeing this, Lu Unc's eyelids twitched unconsciously. His determination to study hard and catch up to Bei Yunji became even stronger. Outside the school bus. Principal, are we really bringing Bei Yunji over? But Bei Yunji's results. She did not know if it was true or not. The lead teacher was reluctant, afraid that Bei Yunji would embarrass Hingda and embarrass her. What can we do? The second, third, and sixth place are all going. Are you going to let the first place not go? The principal smiled insincerely. 516 now, he was the one who was most worried about what would happen. If Bei Yunji could admit that she had cheated at the award ceremony last time, it would not affect Hingda too much. But now, if Bei Yunji was slapped in the face at Yun University and found out that she was not up to standard, Hingda's enrollment rate would be affected. These top universities hated students who cheated the most. They also hated schools that taught such students. At this moment, the principal only hoped that Bei Yunji would be sick today. But in the next second, the principal saw Teacher Wen happily pulling Bei Yunji. Bei Yunji's bright and beautiful face did not look happy, but Teacher Wen was really happy. Then, I'll leave Bei to you, Teacher Han. Teacher Wen was like an old with a cheering with. This was with the only with them with her with. Bei Yunji to her. Seeing this. After Yunji, of course, it. Near the school bus, when Qing Zihuai and the rest saw that Bei Yunji had actually come, their expressions did not look too good. The winners of this year's physics competition were usually the top students who thought they were better than others. But there was an accident. The famous Bei Yunji from class 7 got first place. How dare she come? A girl who happened to be in 10th place glanced at Bei Yunji jealously and couldn't help but say sharply. For this physics competition, she had stayed up late for a month to do questions just to get a place. But what about Bei Yunji? Who would believe that she didn't get this award through connections? Chapter 377. Qing Zihuai clenched his fists, the veins on the back of his hands popping out, but his handsome face did not lose his composure. Seeing that Qing Zihuai was ignoring her, the girls sat aside awkwardly. At this moment, Lei Ye and Qin Youjiao, who were in front, also had their own thoughts. Yaya, do you want to eat some? Qin Youjiao took out a box of biscuits and asked. Lei Ye's lips moved and she stared at her intently. Aren't you angry that Bei Yunji took first place? Qin Youjiao's hand froze. Soon, she hid the gloominess in her eyes and smirked. Why should I be angry? If she really did it with her ability, it's useless for me to be angry. Then, Leia was about to refute when she heard Qin Yojiao continue to giggle. Her tone was slightly cold. But if it wasn't for, if she dared to come today, would you be afraid that she wouldn't expose herself? Qin Yojiao's voice was very soft and only Leia could hear it. What do you mean? Leia could not help asking again. There's an exchange competition at Yun University today. We should go and take a look. Qin Yojiao deliberately observed Leia's expression and caught a flash of light in her eyes. Seeing this, she smirked and said nothing more. Bai Yunj was indeed bold. She was not afraid to barge into a place where academic experts gathered. Soon, the school bus stopped at Yun University. Everyone got out of the bus one by one and could not help looking around. Although Hingda High School was already the most stylish high school in the city, it still paled in comparison to such a top university. The teacher in charge turned around and saw several students with expectant expressions. She smiled. You're all the top students in Hingda. It's actually not that difficult to enter Yun University. Qin Yojiao and the rest noticed that the teacher in charge paused halfway and her tone became stiff because of Bai Yunj. Don't worry, Teacher Han. We'll work hard. Qin Yojiao smiled. The teacher in charge nodded and the teacher from the admissions office brought them around Yun University. Suddenly, Leia could not help but ask, is there a competition at Yun University today? The teacher from Yun University was stunned for a moment before he said with a smile, it seems like you're quite concerned about Yun University. Right. Indeed, there is an exchange competition today. It's the mathematics department's exchange competition. Which school are you competing with? Another person asked curiously. To be able to compete with Yun University, it must be a top university. The teacher's expression froze. It's Neely University. After saying this, the others subconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air. Neely University was the top school in our nation and also the top school in the world. Moreover, his ace major was mathematics. The air froze. Not long after, Qing Zihuai asked, can we go and take a look? Of course you can. However, the participants are all juniors and seniors. You might find it boring. His words were very tactful. He was probably trying to say that they probably wouldn't understand it either. It's okay. A dark light flashed across Qing Zihuai's eyes. In fact, until now, Qing Zihuai was still hesitating whether to apply for computer science or mathematics. After all, his talents in both fields were recognized as good. All right, I'll take you there. The teacher from Yun University nodded and didn't really care. Subsequently, when they entered a hall, they found 30 to 40 students sitting in front of them. Among them, more than 10 to 20 blonde students were especially eye-catching. Especially the proud expressions on their faces. Chapter 378. The moment Qing Zihuai and the others entered, they felt that the atmosphere was not right. When the teachers of Yun University saw their students' solemn and ugly expressions, they immediately knew what was going on. Neely University's mathematics department could be said to be domineering. In recent years, the students had been especially outstanding. In the past 10 years, Yun University had only produced Luo Qingshu, who crushed Neely University's mathematics department. What's going on? Aren't you going to answer the questions? The teacher lowered his voice, his tone a little angry. I've already sent someone to look for Jian Shi, but I don't know where she went. Hearing the student say this, the teacher could not help but press the space between his eyebrows. Now, Yun University was relying on Jian Shi alone to regain their face. In the previous physics department debate competition, Jian Shi was also the one who controlled the entire scene. However, Jian Shi's temper was not good. They could look for her once, but if they did it too many times, she would ignore them completely. Where's Jianxi? Has anyone seen Jianxi? The teacher flew into a rage on the spot and asked in the group chat. However, there was no trace of Jianxi at all. 10 minutes later. The other students from other schools who had won the physics competition also came, but the teachers of Yun University were still in a rage, looking for Jianxi. Leia, who was in the back row, could not help but ask, "Is this Jianxi very powerful?" Unexpectedly, Qing Zihuai spoke. "Yes, she's a freshman at Yun University. She got first place in the computer department and skipped a grade." These words made several people unable to help but feel envious. Skipped a grade. Didn't that mean she was as old as them? Moreover, this exchange competition was for the 3rd and 4th years, but everyone was waiting for a freshman to save the day. This was too powerful. Where's Jianxi? Have you guys gone to the computer department to look for her? The teacher was so anxious that his head was about to explode. We've looked for her. She's not here. The student who ran over panted. This bad girl is definitely going against me. Yun University's teacher's face was almost distorted. She must have remembered that she was late last time. Is there a need for that? The students were speechless. If they had known this would happen, they would not have done it in the first place. In the back row. Bei Yunja's eyebrows twitched as she sent a message. Where are you? In less than a minute. Jianxi, playing games in the dormitory / Jianxi, teacher, what's wrong? Bei Yunj thought for a moment and continued to send her messages. Do you feel like you've forgotten something? Jianxi, yes. Jianxi, I forgot to miss teacher YGG today. Shy, Bei Yunj, at this moment. Bei Yunj listened to Professor Yun talk about Jianxi's cruel deeds while complaining about how hard it was to be Jianxi's teacher. Every time he called Jianxi up to answer a question, Jianxi would throw him a puzzled look that said, "How can you ask such a question?" This made him deeply doubt his teaching standards. Sometimes, a teacher would break down in an instant. I can't do anything about it. What if she finds fault with me during class? Yun University's teacher was on the phone with the school's leader. He chuckled. Respect my teacher. Are you sure who Jianxi treats as her teacher? He must have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck to be Jianxi's teacher. Bei Yunj, who was listening and watching Jianxi's bombardment of messages, was speechless. At this moment, suddenly, Qing Zihuai stood up and said in a gentle and steady voice, "Teacher, can I solve it the first time?" Chapter 379. Hearing this, Teacher Yun was stunned for a moment and looked at Qing Zihuai. You? Even an ordinary 3rd-year student of Yun University would find it difficult to solve these questions. A 3rd-year student from Hengde could solve it. At this moment, a student from Neely University waved casually and smiled lazily and confidently. If anyone knows how to do it, you can go up and do it. Teacher Yun's expression did not look too good, but he could only nod in agreement. Then go and try it. Under everyone's gaze, Qing Zihuai went up to look at the questions for a while. The corners of his lips curled up as he picked up the chalk on the table. Everyone was curious, wanting to know if this person could really solve it. At the same time, Bei Yunj received another message from Jianxi. Jianxi, teacher, where are you now? Bei Yunj lowered her eyes and replied to the message. Your school's conference hall. Jianxi. Sigma. LLL, Jianxi, who was playing dungeons in the dormitory, did not hesitate. She immediately picked up the small flower umbrella and ran out. Seeing this, her roommate, who was paralyzed on the bed, sat up in shock. Jianxi, where are you going? I'm going to find someone. Those who did not know better would think that she had gone to see her idol. In the conference hall, Ching Zihui put down the chalk and smiled warmly and generously. "Teacher, I'm done." As soon as he finished speaking, the 10 to 20 students in front could not help but observe Ching Zihui's steps carefully. Then, they were stunned. Someone exclaimed, "He really did it." It was not only the students from Yun University. Even the students from Neely University did not look too good after seeing Ching Zihui's solution. Reading website. Someone actually solved it. Hearing these discussions, Ching Zihui only smiled and walked down the stage naturally. Teacher Yun looked impressed. "Student, what's your name?" Ching Zihui, a third-year student from Hengde. Hearing this, Teacher Yun nodded and sighed. "Your future is limitless. Your future is limitless." He was only in his third year of high school and already had such standards. It was indeed incredible. The mathematics department professor who had been watching from the side as a judge could not help but look at Ching Zihui with bright eyes. This was also a talented person. The mathematics department professor took note of Ching Zihui's name and appearance, preparing to recruit him next year. Below the stage, there was also a commotion. Especially the girls, when they saw that Ching Zihui was handsome and was a top student, their hearts pounded. "He's so handsome and has such a high IQ. That's of course. Hengde's top student, do you think it's a joke?" Another girl said sneakily, "Also, he's a rich second-generation heir. His family is super rich. Isn't this the norm for the male lead of a school novel? I love it." But speaking, the competition. How? Someone. Then, She smiled awkwardly and braced herself to continue watching the match. She knew it. She should not have brought Bai Yunj this time. Did she think that Bai Yunj had not embarrassed Hengde enough? Chapter 380. The next moment. The student representative of Neely University stood up and looked at Ching Zihui sharply. "You're very capable." Ching Zihui was fluent in English and his attitude was neither servile nor overbearing. "It's just a coincidence." "Is that so?" The boy from Neely University smiled again. "Although you answered this question correctly, Yun University's score is still a lot lower than ours. If you want to catch up, you have to at least catch up with us by 7 questions. Neely University's mathematics department was after all a trump card. Yun University was indeed about to lose badly in this exchange competition. If your school agrees, I'm willing to be a substitute for the seniors of Yun University." Ching Zihui's humble words made the seniors, who had been slapped in the face by a third-year student, look better. Their impression of him also improved. "Up to you. It doesn't matter who you substitute." The blonde boy sneered and gestured for his people to change the question. Seeing the attitude of the Neely University students, the others did not look too good. Yun University was the top university in Country A. Now that they were being looked down on by the students of Country R, they were also provoking Country A's academics. What's there to be proud of? Student Ching might even be able to do it. That's right. Neely University is superior to others. The students in the back rows who knew nothing about Neely University's mathematics said disdainfully. However, the students of Yun University's exchange competition had grave expressions and were about to break down. All these years, Neely University's mathematics department had indeed been crushing Yun University. They indeed had the right to be arrogant, soon. 2 new questions were written on the blackboard. This made the originally calm Ching Zihui's expression darken as he clenched his fists subconsciously. Even the mathematics department professor of Yun University could not keep his expression straight. Meanwhile, the mathematics department professor of Neely University smiled confidently. Suddenly. "Then do any of you know these 2 questions?" The blond boy turned his head and curled his lips. A dark look flashed across his eyes. Trending searches. It was obvious that Neely University had already started to bring out the final question. However, after Bai Yunj saw the question on the blackboard clearly, his gaze became intriguing and he snorted softly. No one noticed Bai Yunj's movement. Everyone's attention was focused on the question on the blackboard. The professor from the mathematics department of Yun University had a sullen expression on his face. He clenched his fists tightly. Even he might not be able to solve this problem within the allotted time. Classmate, can you continue? Neely's student clearly bore a grudge against Qing Zihuai and deliberately asked him. Qing Zihuai pursed his lips unconsciously. His expression did not look too good as he froze. This question, he had no thoughts at all. It seems that none of you know how to do it. Neely's student said sarcastically. Suddenly, someone said, Student Qing is only second in the competition. How about the first place try? Yes. Wasn't there still a competition for first place? You've already gotten first place, so why are you still hiding? A few students at the side began to chime in. When the teacher in charge heard this, he was so nervous that he almost died. He looked at Bai Yunj instinctively. But he didn't expect this ancestor to be so calm and composed, without the slightest bit of fear. Subsequently, Teacher Yun's eyes also looked at Bai Yunj, thinking about something. Suddenly, Qin Yug laughed coquettishly. Yes, Yunj, do you want to try? Don't be so petty. Why are you hiding it? Instantly. Chapter 381. Then, Bai Yunj only turned around, a faint smile on her face as she glanced at her calmly. There was no disdain in her eyes, but there was a lazy look in her eyes that said she could not be bothered with her. This made Qin Yojiao feel extremely disrespectful and she was even more furious. Qin Yojiao's smile froze and she continued to say softly, Yunj, don't tell me you can't understand what's written on it. However, the people in the back row heard everything clearly. The first place in the competition couldn't understand it. Even the second place could answer a question, but she couldn't even understand it. Instantly, everyone was very suspicious of Bai Yunj, the first place in the competition. What's the hurry? The person who knows how to do it is here. Bai Yunj said slowly. Hearing this, a trace of ridicule flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes. Really? Even the teacher can't find someone who knows how to do the questions. Do you know who knows how to do it? Instantly. Someone couldn't help but mock, if you don't know, you don't know. Why are you looking for a reason? Is this first place in the competition real or fake? It's almost time to answer the questions. She said that someone knows how to do it now. Later, Yun University will lose 2 points to Lee University. Is it her fault? The malicious criticism around them was endless. Even the students of Yun University could not help but turn around and glance at Bai Yunj, their eyes filled with disgust. Did a cheating student have the right to sit here? Seeing the situation on the stage, Qing Zihuai only glanced at Bai Yunj calmly before he continued to observe the question. After all, Bai Yunj deserved it and had nothing to do with him. At this moment, Qin Yojiao seemed to have vented her anger and asked with a smile, then if she didn't come, would you go up and answer the question? Suddenly, a melodious female voice rang out. Teacher. Everyone turned around and saw a girl holding a flower umbrella. She looked very exquisite. Then, DM in the back row, Jian, she saw the figure of the person she was looking for. Her eyes lit up and she walked forward. Before Jian she could finish her sentence, she was suddenly grabbed by the back of her collar. She stared at Bai Yunj pitifully, but she was directly dragged to the front row. Jian Shi, if you can make Yun University proud this time, we'll write off the matter of you being late and leaving early last time. Seeing that Bai Yunj was getting further and further away from her, Jianxi's expression turned ugly. I don't want it. Teacher Yun, it would be great if he could strangle this guy to death with his own hands. If you go and help, I'll give you extra points. Jianxi asked, what's the use of adding it? First, there was no one else but her. Yun Da's teacher took a deep breath. Elective course exemption. How about it? Teacher, I think you should find someone else. Before Jianxi could finish speaking, the phone in her pocket suddenly vibrated. She subconsciously took it out to take a look. YGG, give it a try. If you can do it, I'll take you to the maps of the gods' dungeon. Jane paused for a moment. Then, before Teacher Yun could continue persuading her, she suddenly looked up. Teacher, I think I have to protect the honor of my alma mater. Teacher Yun was speechless. What was wrong with her now? However, this was just the right time. Everyone below the stage could not help but be curious as they watched Jianxi walk up the stage. The Jianxi that Teacher Yun had been talking about just now was this girl. Was she really that good? Chapter 382. His eyes were gloomy and the veins on the back of his hand popped out. Qing Zihuai could not figure out why he would rather accept a bad-tempered missy than choose him. At this moment, seeing Jianxi start writing the solution after looking at the questions for a while, the Neely University student froze and his expression turned ugly. There was actually a student from Yun University who could solve these two questions. Not only were the students from Neely University in disbelief, even the math department professor from Neely University was in disbelief. Which year is this student from? Professor Neely could not help but gasp. Year 1. Computer science student. The voice of the mathematics department professor from Yunhua University trembled slightly. Jianxi was a computer science student, right? He had just sorted out his thoughts for this question, but how did Jianxi solve it? Computer science. The Neely University professor's eyes almost popped out. How could a computer science student solve these questions? Then why didn't this student choose mathematics? Could it be that she was better at computing? The Neely University professor's expression was about to crack. Yes. The Yun University professor said faintly. Back then, he could not beat those old men from the computer science department. However, Jianxi, who was doing the questions, was also a little confused. She wrote exceptionally smoothly. These questions seemed to have been given to her by her teacher before. After answering the first question, Jianxi, who was muttering in her heart, looked at the next question. She felt that this question was more like her teacher's handwriting. Although she was puzzled, Jianxi still quickly solved the second question. I'm done. Jianxi put the chalk back and looked at the professors beside her. The Yun University professor suppressed the surging emotions in his heart and nodded calmly. Yes, not bad. However, when he saw the two perfect solutions on the blackboard, the expression of the Neely University student representative changed and he stood up instinctively. How is this possible? Luan Nuo, the Neely University professor shouted warningly. Hearing this, Luan Nuo sat down again with an ugly expression. He grabbed the handle of the chair weakly, as if he had suffered a blow. The Yun University professor could not help but stand up and walk to Jianxi's side. Where did you learn these questions from? My teacher taught me. Jianxi frowned and felt even more confused. Previously, her teacher had said that although she studied computer science, she had to be well-rounded. Therefore, she had to know a little about these basic questions. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing in the future. Your teacher. Yun University's professor was stunned. At the mention of her teacher, Jianxi's eyes lit up. She was obviously happy. Yes, my teacher is also a computer science major. University's professor, why would someone who majored in computer science have to teach students this level of mathematics? Only Cheng Zihuai's handsome face darkened when he heard this, and he felt upset in his heart. Others might not know who teacher Jianxi was, but he knew very well. If he had been the one to choose back then, Jianxi would not be the one standing in the limelight now. Cheng Zihuai gritted his teeth as an unknown anger rose in his heart. The University professor put on a fake smile. What else does your teacher usually teach you? Mathematics, physics, and chemistry. I teach them occasionally. Jianxi added, you can even bring me to dungeons. University's professor, where did this deity come from to subdue this little devil? P.S. Good boys, remember to buy tickets. Chapter 383. Your teacher is really omnipotent. After hearing this, the professor of University thought that Jianxi's family had found an incredible teacher for her. That's right, that's right. If not for the fact that the competition was still going on, the professor of University would have thrown the fangirl-looking Jianxi out. Alright, then continue answering the questions. Don't embarrass your teacher. The professor of University left as if he was escaping. Jianxi was speechless. For the next few questions, it was as if Jianxi had cheated. It was all her personal show time. When the mathematics department students saw this, their faces were almost numb. They even had a bold thought, could it be that those who studied computer science were better at mathematics? However, on second thought, this was not right. Previously, during the physics exchange competition of University, Jianxi was the one who controlled the entire competition. The mathematics department students were speechless. What kind of damnable existence was this? However, Jianxi suddenly stopped when she was 2 questions away from tying the score. This question looked a little familiar, but she did not know how to solve it. Seeing that Jianxi finally stopped writing, the gloomy Leonard heaved a sigh of relief. The corners of his lips curled up as he looked lazily at the hesitant girl on stage. This question was indeed not simple. However, he did not expect that someone from University would be able to solve this question. At this moment, Jianxi hesitated for a moment and slowly wrote down the steps to answer the question. However, halfway through, she could not continue. She pursed her lips and suddenly turned her head, as if she was looking at someone. In the back row, a certain someone who met her gaze was speechless. After a while, Bai Yunj glanced at the question and was about to ask Jianxi to come down when she heard Leonard say deliberately. It seems that the students of University are only so-so. Hearing this, Jianxi's gaze turned cold as she looked at Leonard. Qi Yan was reading. Immediately after. Before Jianxi could speak, a lazy voice sounded from the back row. So, are you going to solve the question yourself? As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere in the venue suddenly froze. Everyone subconsciously turned to look at Bai Yunj. They did not expect Bai Yunj to interrupt at this moment. A hint of panic flashed across Leonard's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. How can I not know the questions we came up with? Are you sure you came up with this question? The corners of Bai Yunj's lips curled up. Her beautiful and soul-stirring eyes carried a hint of confusion. Her lazy glance was enough to inexplicably frighten people. Leonard flushed. However, Qi Nyojiao, who was in the back row, had her eyes turned cold as she sneered in her heart. What was Bai Yunj trying to do at this time? Even Jianxi could not do it. What ability did she have to mock the students of Neely University? However, just as everyone was having different thoughts, the professor from University spoke. Professor Omar, this question shouldn't have been set by the students, and it shouldn't have been set by you, right? Everyone was confused. They didn't know what the University professor meant. However, they saw that Professor Omar's face had also turned pale, and he did not explain anything. As far as I know, this seems to be an example in someone's academic thesis, the professor from University continued in a deep voice. When everyone heard this, they fell into deep sighs and unconsciously began to discuss secretly. Not long after, someone exclaimed, "It's that thesis." In an instant, the atmosphere in the venue was like hot water in a pot, boiling. It was this person again. Chapter 384. Hearing this, the person who had exclaimed just now turned around and smiled slightly. At first, I thought so too. Until last time, my senior brother's graduation thesis seemed to be about several major problems related to nonlinear functional analysis. He said that it would be difficult to make a breakthrough in the next 50 years. In the end, she published a major thesis in this area last month. The breakthrough was very comprehensive and my senior brother is preparing to rewrite it. Everyone was speechless. This sounded really tragic. That's nothing. Because of her, our computer science department's question bank has rewritten hundreds of questions this year. The students watching from the back row put on a fake smile. I wonder how many students will fail this year because of her. Yeah, this year's computer science students don't want to acknowledge anyone else. They only acknowledge her. After listening to the conversation between the two people in the back row, everyone felt an inexplicable chill run down their spines. What kind of god was this? However, Bei Yunj could hear the angry tone of the student just now. She glanced at them faintly before looking away quickly. This question indeed appeared because of. But that example question is different from the one we came up with. Professor Omar explained. Hearing this, the professor of University also looked at the question on the blackboard seriously. He then turned on his phone and searched for the example question. He found that there was indeed a difference between the two questions. The professor of University gave a fake smile. It's different. However, your school did think highly of our University by getting the professor to come up with the questions personally for this exchange competition. Professor Omar's expression did not look good, but he could not refute. After all, in principle, teachers could not set questions for students. Suddenly, Leonard said, "Since the student on stage doesn't know how to answer, I wonder if the student in the back row is willing to come up and answer." He stared at Bei Yunj gloomily. If it wasn't for her, no one would have guessed that this question was an imitation. However, hearing this, she could not help but glance at him with admiration before she fell silent. He really knew how to kick an iron plate. He even had to choose the hardest one. He imitated someone else's example question and even got the real person to answer it. His courage was really shocking. Seeing that Leonard seemed to be staring at Bei Yunj, Qin Yojiao, who was in the back row, suppressed the smile on her lips and remained silent. They were quietly waiting to see how Bei Yunj would embarrass herself in public. Under everyone's gaze, Bei Yunj said slowly, "I can't solve it." As soon as he finished speaking, many people's eyes were filled with mockery or disgust. However, before anyone could mock her, they saw the corners of her eyes curl up again. Her smile did not reach her eyes. Wrong question. How do you want to solve it? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Wrong question. Soon, someone sneered, saying that she got the questions wrong just because she doesn't know how to answer them. Where did Hengde get such an embarrassing student? Is this woman crazy because she wants to be in the limelight? How dare you say such things? I'm impressed. Where did this weirdo come from? The crowd continued to discuss. Leonard also snorted, thinking that Bei Yunj was ridiculous. Mistake. All of these questions have answers. Student, are you overconfident, or are all the students in country so confident? Instantly, the expressions of the other students from country present changed. However, Professor Omar suddenly stood up and smiled at Bei Yunj. Student, there won't be any mistakes in this question. Chapter 385. Seeing Bei Yunj openly questioning a professor from Neely University, Qing Ziwei snorted and looked away. She's courting death. He did not know why this woman could always cause trouble. Qin Yojiao smiled as well, but the ridicule hidden in her eyes was self-evident. At this moment, Professor, aren't you going to calculate it again? Professor Omar was unhappy to be questioned like this and only maintained his smile. If you think it's wrong, why don't you go on stage and try? These words were also reminding Bei Yunj not to speak if she did not understand. After all, this question required a lot of calculations and he did not want to waste time. Who knew? Bei Yunj really stood up and walked slowly towards the stage, picking up the chalk on the table. Seeing this, a dark look flashed past Leia, who had been silent all this while. She asked unconsciously, does she really know how to do it? Qin Yojiao chuckled. Yeah, others might have the ability, but it's impossible for Bei Yunj. At this moment, Bei Yunj glanced at the question and circled the wrong data and symbols. Then, she started to write down the process of answering the questions unhurriedly. However, when Bei Yunj circled the first data, Professor Omar stood up instinctively and his expression changed. He trembled unconsciously and clenched his fists tightly. Soon, he hurriedly opened his briefcase and found the solution he had written back then. With this look, he realized that he had written the solution wrong, so he happened to get an answer. Suddenly, Professor Omar's expression changed and he looked up at the girl who was answering on stage. However, Bei Yunj wrote half of the blackboard and furrowed her eyebrows unconsciously. Then, she tapped 6 dots impatiently and left an answer. Looking at this answer, Professor Omar's mind was in a mess for a moment. He did not know if Bei Yunj had written it right or wrong. On the other hand, but his answer just now was indeed wrong. At the same time, the professor from Yun University realized belatedly that there was a mistake in this question. But how did this girl recognize it at a glance? Omar, did she answer this question correctly? The professor from Yun University suppressed his shock and asked Professor Omar. Professor Omar turned his head. Why don't you do the math with me? Yun University's professor, he saw that the girl had saved a lot of steps and directly wrote down the answer. He thought that there was a special method to solve this problem, so it wouldn't be too difficult. At this very moment, everyone saw that the two professors seemed to be recalculating this question, and they couldn't stop the shock in their hearts. So, the question just now was really wrong. It can't be. How is it possible to tell? Then what do you think our professor is doing now? Everyone, he seemed to be solving a problem. It wasn't just the students from Yun University who couldn't sit still. Even the students from Neely University didn't expect this to happen. Their professor made a mistake in the question, but it was pointed out by a young girl on the spot. Impossible, she must have guessed. Seeing this situation, Qin Yojiao could not help but grit her teeth and say. Leia's eyes darkened and she could not help but look at Bei Yunj, who was sitting beside Jian Shi. About 10 minutes later, with the cooperation of the two professors, they finally solved the answer. They looked up and found that the answer Bei Yunj had written was no different from theirs. At this moment, the two professors felt their scalps turn numb. Chapter 386. For a while, the two professors were a little speechless, but their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. How could a high school student successfully solve such a question? At the thought of how Pei Yunj had impatiently drawn 6 dots on the blackboard and marked the final answer halfway just now, the two professors' eyebrows almost popped out. Her actions would really give people the illusion that the questions were not too difficult. "Professor, is her answer correct?" Leonard still insisted on asking. Then, he glanced at Pei Yunj with a dark gaze. He did not believe that someone in Country A could solve such a question. What's more, even Professor Omar had a hard time solving this problem. Professor Omar heard this and came back to his senses, but his voice was still trembling. "The answer is correct," for a moment. The entire venue fell into a strange cold atmosphere, then it quickly boiled over. What the hell? The two professors had just solved this question together for more than 10 minutes, but Pei Yunj went up to write for less than 5 minutes and came up with the correct answer. F***CK. Didn't the people from Hingda just say that the first place in this competition was cheating? Then what's the situation now? It's too difficult to cheat, so they decided to use their strength. The students from the other high schools almost scolded, but they still had to maintain a smile on their faces. Was this a new way for Hingda to confuse their opponents? "I heard that this is this year's dark horse." She jumped from the bottom to first place and broke the mentality of the other people in Hingda, everyone. Wasn't this method too wild? After all, Hingda was the best high school in Yunqing. In the history of the top 40, if they wanted to be ranked higher, they had to grit their teeth and study hard. However, this person had suddenly won first place in the competition without saying anything. Who could withstand such a crazy operation? Not only the students from the other schools, even the lead teacher from Hingda, who felt embarrassed just now, trembled at this moment and looked at this scene in disbelief. So, Pei Yunj was really at this level. Then why did she usually do like that? The lead teacher's mood was very complicated. If it was before, she would never believe that Pei Yunj won first place without the Qin family's help. Suddenly, Leonard's voice was sharp and cold. "Looks like the students of Yun University aren't that good. Only 1 or 2 high school students are passable." As soon as he finished speaking, the expressions of the students and teachers of Country A turned ugly. Luan Nuo's words were not only a slap to Yun University's face, but they were also mocking Country A's top university. Sure enough, he was hooting again the next moment. Or is Country A's academic standards starting to decline? Suddenly, a soft snicker from the front row caught everyone's attention. When Leonard saw that the commotion was caused by Pei Yunj again, his face quickly darkened. "What do you mean? If you really think that Country A is not good enough, why are 7 out of the 10 questions from your school just now replicated?" Pei Yunj looked at him calmly. His eyes were curved, but his gaze made people feel inexplicably guilty. Leonard's face turned pale. He did not expect to be poked in his sore spot in public. Out of these 10 questions, 7 of them were indeed derived from an academic thesis. Actually, the academic community of Neely University had been discussing this. It was as if he had appeared out of nowhere and shocked the entire academic circle. Chapter 387. This made it difficult for Country R's academic circle, who had always had a sense of superiority, to accept this reality. How did such a genius appear in Country A? Back then. As Marcus's good friend, the principal of Neely University had also hinted to Marcus to poach her to Country R. But who would have thought that this person's temper was simply unpredictable? She even turned a blind eye to Country R's goodwill. "I'm sorry. My student was too rude." Suddenly, Professor Omar stood up and bowed to everyone. Seeing that Omar's attitude was good, the expressions of the others improved slightly. However, Luan Nuo gritted his teeth and stared at Pei Yunj with dark eyes. It was his first time being slapped in public. And it was such an arrogant woman. Professor Omar turned around and asked Bai Yunj, "Do you like this student very much?" Bai Yunj said, "It's all right." Jian Shi, who was sitting beside him, forced herself to stop the smile on her lips. "If you want to engage in scientific research in the future, why don't you consider our Neely University?" With that said, Luen Noa turned around immediately, his tone filled with disbelief and disapproval. "Professor." The professor of Yun University, who was drinking tea, was caught off guard and almost spat it out. The professor of Yun University was speechless. How could someone be so shameless as to poach someone so brazenly in front of others in another school? The students in the back seat were also excited. They never thought that they would be able to see the noble and cold Neely University poach someone personally in their lifetime. "Omar, are you crazy?" The professor of Yun University blocked Professor Omar's gaze and gave a fake smile. "Professor Do, did your Yun University give this student an admission letter?" Omar smiled and straightened his back, not feeling guilty at all. "If not, then Neely University has one now." Professor Do rejected immediately. "No. Dream on. Don't even think about it." Seeing the two famous schools fighting for students, the other students felt like their hearts were about to jump out of their chests. As for Qin Yojiao, her eyes darkened as she clenched her fists tightly, her nails almost sinking into her flesh. How could this be? Bai Yunj could solve a question that even Cheng Zihuai could not understand. Could it be that Bai Yunj had been pretending for so many years? Was she playing with them on purpose? "Jiao Jiao, do you know that Bai Yunj knows this?" Cheng Zihuai's handsome expression was ugly. He never thought that he would be defeated by Bai Yunj one day. Qin Yojiao bit her lip and smiled. "I don't know much about her. But she's a very purposeful person." Cheng Zihuai thought about this for a long time before looking at the scene in front of him gloomily. He sneered, "What do you mean by having a strong motive? You're just vain." In order to make herself look like a genius, she has really worked hard for so many years. Hearing this, Qin Yojiao only smiled. Not too long later. Everyone of Ching of Life C, Professor, of Su of Professor of C of C of C of C C C C, Professor C, why are you here? Professor Do was stunned at first. Then, he tugged at Si Qingyan and sneered in exasperation. "Professor C, you have to be careful during the next computer science exchange competition. Do you know? There's still such a shameless person in this world who dares to poach someone from my mathematics department in front of me." Everyone was speechless. He was using the fact that the professor from country or didn't understand their language to scold him. Chapter 388. Si Qingyan had a bad feeling when he heard that. "Who are you fighting for?" Professor Do pointed at the person beside Jian Shi and said with a smile, "This student." "How is it?" "Not bad, right?" In the next second, Si Qingyan and Bai Yunj exchanged glances. Bai Yunj was speechless. Si Qingyan was speechless. Si Qingyan's expression almost distorted. If this ancestor was poached into the mathematics department, wouldn't that old master in the institute whip him to death? Si Qingyan smiled gently. "Professor Do, don't be anxious. You have to think on the bright side. Maybe this student isn't interested in mathematics." Professor Do was speechless. What kind of dog shit was he talking about? "Student Pei, tell me if you want to stay in Yunqing or go to our nation." Yunqing. The moment Bai Yunj finished speaking, before Professor Do could be happy, he heard her continue, "But I want to study computing." In an instant, Professor Do froze and his smile froze. In the back row, Qing Zihuai furrowed his eyebrows and looked at Bai Yunj with a cold and mocking gaze. Bai Yunj kept saying that she didn't like him at all. Then why did she enroll in computing? He never knew when Bai Yunj had such a hobby. Beside him, Qin Youjiao suddenly said, Zihuai, you'll also choose computing, right? Qing Zihuai's eyes were filled with disdain as he looked away from Bai Yunj. It seems like we're really fated, Qin Youjiao said with a smile. Until the end. When Professor Omar heard Bai Yunj's choice, he was still reluctant to let go of such a good seedling. Seeing that these two professors were finally willing to continue hosting the exchange competition, Si Qingyan turned around calmly. Baidu. He instructed Bai Yunj, don't come to the next computing competition. Bai Yunj was speechless. How can I do that? Then what should I do? She widened her eyes. If her teacher wasn't around, why would she participate in the competition? What do you mean what to do? Do you know how difficult it is to deal with a computer professor at Herman University? Si Qingyan smiled. He didn't want to be entangled by that person at all. The exchange competition ended. Hengda's school bus was very quiet. The girl who had been talking about Bai Yunj along the way didn't look too good either. She sat at the back of the group without saying a word. Bai Yunj, were you, at this level in the past? The teacher asked stiffly. More or less. Bai Yunj didn't try to hide it, but she wasn't interested in talking about it either. Seeing this, the teacher in charge could only nod his head silently and tactfully stopped asking. Until they returned to Hengda. The principal welcomed her excitedly and happily. Teacher Han, you've worked hard today. It's my duty. The principal did not notice the expression of the teacher in charge and said with a smile, I heard that the students in our school have been snatched by Nili University and Yunqing University. Yes. The teacher's eyelids twitched, but he lowered his head even more. Who is it? The principal's face was radiant. The teacher in charge was silent for a moment before he looked up. However, the name he said made the principal's smile freeze. Bai Yunj. After a long while. The principal's smile was a little stiff. Who are you talking about? Chapter 389. The moment he finished speaking, the principal stood rooted to the ground. His mind was in a state of chaos. What? The person that Nili University and Yun University were fighting over was Bai Yunj. At this moment, the principal stared at Bai Yunj's departing figure and felt that this world was a fantasy. How could it be Bai Yunj? Because school was ending soon, Bai Yunj did not stay in the classroom for long before she prepared to leave school. Today, there seemed to be fewer fans at the door. At the school gate, Qin Youjiao had just walked out of the door when she saw Mr. Qin's figure. A dark look flashed past her eyes and she quickened her steps. Dad! Hearing this, Mr. Qin turned around instinctively. He did not expect to see Qin Youjiao. Jiao. Mr. Qin looked awkward. Qin Youjiao held his hand and said with a coy smile, Are you here to pick me up? I came to look for Gu today for something. Mr. Qin felt a little unnatural. He did not tell Qin Youjiao that he had come to Hengda today because he knew very well that Qin Youjiao and Bai Yunj did not have a good relationship. Who knew? Qin Youjiao suddenly asked, Dad, are you here because Yunj got first in the competition? Seeing that Qin Youjiao wanted to say something but stopped herself, Mr. Qin was a little stunned. What did you say? Gu got first in the competition. The Qin family knew Bai Yunj's results very well. After all, the Qin family was prepared to let Bai Yunj get in through the back door. You don't know. That's true. Why would Yunj tell you? Eldest brother and the rest won't tell you either, Qin Yojiao said casually. These words unconsciously led Mr. Qin's thoughts, making him think that Bei Yunji's first place in the competition was done by Qin Luyan and the rest. On the Wei Chinese website. Ridiculous. Mr. Qin's expression did not look too good. Dad, what happened to you? Qin Yojiao said awkwardly, did I say something wrong? I didn't know you didn't know about this. Jiao Jiao, did you participate in this competition? Mr. Qin took a deep breath and asked. Yes, I got 6th place. This competition was really difficult. Hearing Qin Yojiao's words, Mr. Qin felt even more complicated and upset. Whether it was Gu or Jiao Jiao, they were both his daughters. But now, for Gu Lu Yan was even willing to buy a place in the competition. He didn't care about Jiao Jiao's feelings at all. Jiao Jiao, your brother went overboard this time. Mr. Qin's brows twitched and he looked a little tired. It's okay. Big brother and the rest only like Goof now. Anyway, I'm not the biological daughter of the Qin family, so I can't blame anyone. At this moment, when Mr. Qin saw that Qin Yojiao was still suppressing her grievances and smiling at him, he blamed himself even more. Jiao Jiao, Dad will always treat you as his daughter. Mr. Qin reached out and caressed Qin Yojiao's head, his voice gentle. Unexpectedly, she met Bei Yunji's eyes the next moment. Seeing this, Bei Yunji's rosy lips curled up, but she walked away quickly. It was as if Father Qin was a complete stranger to her. This knowledge made Mr. Qin's body stiffen. Go! He shouted subconsciously. However, the figure in front of him didn't even look back as she got into the car and left. A strange glint flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes, but her tone was gentle. Dad, Yunji's like this. She didn't do it on purpose. Hearing this, Mr. Qin could not understand why his daughter had become like this. In the car. Chapter 390. He saw that person from afar and even chased after her. However, Miss did not even turn back. Does it count? Bei Yunji leaned against the back seat lazily. No one knew if she was asking a rhetorical question or if she meant something else. Uncle Wang, let's go to the hospital first today. Bei Yunji glanced at the time and said. Okay, Mississippi. Uncle Wang immediately changed his route and said with a smile. He could tell that Miss Pei was a filial child. She would go to the hospital every 2 to 3 days. On the way, Shidu called her. Brother. Bei Yunji flipped through the information in her hand and called out again. Yun, have you finished school? Hearing the man's words, Bei Yunji finally realized that Shidu was waiting for her. After returning from the archery hall last time, the man had inexplicably higher expectations for her homework. Brother, I have to go to the hospital first today. Bei Yunji said. The man standing by the French window narrowed his pale-colored eyes lazily and stood with his back relaxed. Has Grandpa Qin recovered? Hearing this address, Bei Yunji felt that something was wrong. However, she still replied, I'm pretty good. These few days, he even asked her to play the maps of the gods with him. That's good. Go ahead. Brother will fetch you back later. Okay. After hanging up the call, Bei Yunji suddenly thought of the hug at the entrance of the archery hall. There were no emotions mixed in it. It was the simplest hug. However, it made her feel inexplicably terrible. Bei Yunji's eyes darkened. At this moment, Shidu also received another call. It was from Qin Yu. Very soon. Music Shidu answered the call and asked calmly, what's wrong? Master Do you have time to come out for a gathering? I'll treat you. Qin Yu was also in the car. His ink-like arrogant and handsome eyes carried a casual smile. No need. Hwashidu rejected him casually. However, Chinyu said seriously, how can I do that? You've worked hard to take care of my sister during this period of time. How can I not show you any gratitude? Hearing this, Hwashidu's hand that was flipping through the document stopped. He sensed the other intention behind his words. During this period, the man tapped his fingers on the table, and his eyes turned dark. That's right. We're bringing Old Master back today, and we're also preparing to bring Gu-er back. At this point, Chinyu was even more grateful to Hwashidu. After all, I'm embarrassed to trouble you all the time. So, let's have a meal together. Let me. Before he could finish his words, the call was suddenly hung up. Chinyu's smile froze. In the president's office. Not long after, Tsing-Su walked in and looked at the man in front of him. Master Du, what are your orders? Go get the car. We're going to the hospital now. Half an hour later, Bae-yunj stepped out of the elevator and pushed open the door of the ward. He saw that the ward had been cleaned up and was ready to leave at any time. Gu-er, you've finally come. Old Master Chin's eyes lit up when he saw Bae-yunj. He immediately went forward to hold Bae-yunj's hand. However, Bae-yunj noticed that Qin Luyen and the other two were around. All of them were staring fixedly at her. Bae-yunj looked away calmly. Is Grandpa going back? It's about time. Let's go back. Old Master Qin was very happy to be held by Bae-yunj. Seeing that the old master did not even wait for his son when he saw his granddaughter, the brothers also remained silent. Chapter 391. At this moment, before Bae-yunj could speak, the man wearing gold-rimmed glasses beside her suddenly shouted. Gu-er. Bae-yunj was still very respectful in front of old Master Qin. Bae-yunj turned to look at him. Grandpa's health is still not very good. Do you want to go back to the old mansion and stay with Grandpa for a while? Qin Luyen's low and calm voice was filled with an imperceptible gentleness. When Qin Yu and Qin Lang saw this, they could not help but want to give their eldest brother a thumbs up. As expected of their eldest brother. Knowing that Gu-er was most worried about the old master, he used the old master to coax her home first. Old Master Qin also looked at his eldest grandson hesitantly, his face full of question marks. Who was Lu Yen talking about? His health isn't very good. Bae-yunj frowned. Qin Luyen said, Although he has just recovered from a serious illness, Grandpa still needs to recuperate for a while. If Gu can accompany him, Grandpa will recover faster. Old Master Qin, who had just despised his eldest grandson for using him to lie, immediately had his eyes light up. Yes, Gu-er, you've been back for 2 years and Grandpa has been staying in the hospital. I've never enjoyed the joy of family. With that said, old Master Qin coughed violently again, looking extremely weak. Qin Yu and Qin Lang were perplexed. Was his grandson not worthy of having a name? Then, before Bae-yunj could speak, a low voice sounded not far away. Yun. Bae-yunj was stunned for a moment, before she turned around and saw Hwashidu and Tsing-Su walking towards her. Brother, why are you here? Hearing this address, the Qin brothers felt like their hearts had been stabbed. It seemed like Gu had never called them a brother in the past month or so. I heard that Grandpa Qin was discharged from the hospital and brought some supplements over. Hwashidu was good-looking and his ability was recognized by the older generation. After seeing Hwashidu a few times, old Master Qin naturally liked him. Look, even Shidu is more attentive than all of you. Hearing this, the man's lips curled up imperceptibly and his tone was light. It's only right. Before Qin Yu could sense anything, Qin Luyin and Qin Lang felt that there was a deeper meaning to these words. But soon, she saw old Master Qin enthusiastically pulling Huashidu downstairs. Let's go. Shidu should be free today, right? Why don't you and Grandpa Qin go back to the old mansion for a meal? If Grandpa Qin doesn't mind me disturbing you, of course I'm happy to. This was the first time Tsing Su, who was at the back, saw his master do being so modest. He almost thought that he was dreaming. Bei Yunj also had an illusion. Her brother seemed to be trying to build a good relationship with her grandfather. On the way back to the Qin family's old mansion, old Master Qin and Bei Yunj got into Huashidu's car. Over here. The three men of the Qin family were silent. How did you meet President Hua? Qin Luyin asked. Qin Yu said, we were high school classmates and have always been brothers. So, you're not worried about letting Gu stay in a stranger's house? Qin Luyin felt that Huashidu's attitude towards Gu or the old master was too amiable. It did not seem like the rumored president of the Hua Corporation at all. Sigh, you've been worried 700 or 800 times. Qin Yu could not help but laugh. Don't worry. I've never seen him like anyone since high school. Where did our Gu get the ability to warm up such an iceberg? Chapter 392. One had to know that when he played basketball with Huashidu in the past, half of the girls in the field had come to see Huashidu. Qin Luyin did not speak, but a dark look flashed past his eyes. He still wanted to get Gu back as soon as possible. No matter who he handed Gu to, he would not be at ease. Back at the old mansion, Bei Yunj and Huashidu accompanied the old master and walked in front. But in the next second, when old Master Qin looked up and saw the familiar figure in the living room, his smile froze. It was Qin Yojiao. However, old Master Yun and Yun Nuo were sitting beside him. I heard last night that Jiao Jiao passed the International Musicians Association's preliminary audition. Is this true? A trace of admiration flashed past old Master Yun's eyes. It had to be said that Qin Yojiao was the most outstanding in this socialite circle. It's just the preliminary audition. Qin Yojiao smiled. Beside her, Mrs. Qin could not stop smiling when she heard old Master Yun's praise. It's impressive that you can pass the preliminary audition. The International Musicians Association has never recruited anyone from our country, old Master Yun sighed. Back then, he was also lucky enough to meet people from the International Musicians Association. They were all people who chatted and laughed with the top celebrities in the world. The moment he finished speaking, old Master Yun and the rest noticed old Master Qin and the rest. However, when Yun Nuo saw Bei Yunj, a trace of sarcasm flashed past her eyes. Yes, how can ordinary people reach the International Musicians Association? Yun Nuo laughed deliberately and her words sounded a little ear-piercing. Compared to some people who can only be reincarnated into a good family, Jiao Jiao is much better. With that said, 228 Literature Network. Yun Nuo did not notice that the expressions of the people walking over had darkened. Only Bei Yunj glanced at Yun Nuo with a faint smile and suddenly laughed. Yun Nuo's expression changed as if she had been provoked. What are you laughing at? Bei Yunj's voice was lazy. Nothing. Does Miss Yun still want to drink tea? These words sounded hospitable, but Yun Nuo remembered how Bei Yunj had splashed hot tea over her head last time. Yun Nuo's eyes turned red as she gritted her teeth. Then, she sneered again. Miss Pei is really intolerant. Jiao Jiao has been in the Qin family for 19 years. Isn't she more like the eldest daughter of the Qin family than you? At this moment, Old Master Yun didn't say anything, silently agreeing with Yun Nuo's words. In the end, his old friend was blinded by blood. So what if her granddaughter wasn't her biological granddaughter? Qin Yojiao had even passed the preliminary examination of the International Musicians Association. Was this still far from winning glory for the Qin family? As for the new daughter, the Qin family had been embroiled in a storm because of her. What could she bring to the Qin family? However, what Old Master Yun didn't expect was that Old Master Qin would actually get angry. Miss Yun, if you don't want to be a guest of the Qin family, you can leave early. Looking at Old Master Qin's cold face, Yun Nuo also panicked. The Yun family and the Qin family had been on good terms for so many years, and Old Master Qin had always been very gentle to her. However, this was the first time his tone was so cold and distant. Yun Nuo felt wronged. I didn't mean that. Old Qin, why are you angry with the younger generation? Old Master Yun laughed, a trace of sharpness in his cloudy eyes as he glanced at Bai Yunj. She was indeed scheming to coax Old Master Qin to this extent. Who knew? Old Master Qin slapped Old Master Yun's hand away and said with a dark expression. Stop trying to smooth things over. No outsider has the right to interfere in our Qin family's matters. Chapter 393. Before anyone could speak, Qin Luyan's voice sounded. Why is Miss Qin here? The moment Qin Yojiao met Qin Luyan's eyes, she felt inexplicably afraid. Brother, Qin Yojiao bit her lip and said pitifully, don't chase me away, okay? Seeing this, Old Master Yun thought of Mrs. Qin's request just now and interrupted. The child specially came to welcome Old Qin. There's no need to be so distant. Even if they're not biological, they still have feelings for each other. At this moment, Qin Luyan smirked, his tone gentle and polite. However, his words made Old Master Yun's expression turn ugly. Old Master Yun is so tolerant. Why aren't you willing to bring your third son's illegitimate son home? After all, he's your biological son. Old Master Yun's expression changed when his scar was exposed in public. He was so angry that he almost trembled. What did this have to do with him? However, hearing Qin Luyan's words, Old Master Qin was amused. He said gently on purpose, yes, Old Yun, your blood flows in the child's body. Aren't you a beast if you don't even look at her? With that said, Mrs. Qin's face also turned pale. She had a feeling that Old Master Qin was deliberately hinting at someone. You! Old Master Yun's face flushed red. He did not expect to be provoked by his good friend. Usually, Old Master Qin knew about this, but he never interfered in other people's family matters, so he would at most ask indirectly. But now, Old Master Yun had angered the entire Qin family. How could he not be criticized? Ah Lang, go and send Miss Qin out. Qin Luyan said. However, the moment Mrs. Qin heard this, she immediately stood in front of Qin Yojiao. Why should Jiao Jiao leave? If it was anyone else in the Qin family, they would not be able to deal with Mrs. Qin's pestering. She must love reading. However, Qin Luyan was an exception. Qin Luyan said calmly, Mom should have eaten too. Send her out too. Qin Luyan. Mrs. Qin was furious. She never thought that she would give birth to such an unfilial son. Suddenly, Mr. Qin, who had come downstairs, frowned. Lu Yen, is this your attitude towards your mother? Unexpectedly, Old Master Qin said faintly, Why? Are you going to scold Lu Yen in front of me? Do you think you're so great just because you're me? Mr. Qin was taken aback. Dad, no, that's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? If you don't want to be a member of the Qin family, then scram. This old man's death has nothing to do with you. Old Master Qin roared angrily. In an instant, the atmosphere in the arena was silent. Old Master Yun didn't expect Old Master Qin to be like a barrel of explosives. Because of the Bai Yunj incident, it was easy to explode. Even Qin Yojiao saw Old Master Qin's dark expression. For a moment, he didn't dare to plead for leniency on his behalf. Grandpa, calm down. Go sit down first. Bai Yunj saw that the old man was trembling with anger and tried to comfort him. My gu is still the filial one. The old man's complexion improved slightly, and he followed Bai Yunj to sit on the sofa. At this time, only then did the two men from the Yun family notice the other man beside the old man. President Hua. Why are you here? Old Master Yun froze. He had been too concerned about the Qin family's grandchildren just now and did not notice that the person standing beside Old Master Qin was actually Hua Shidu. When did the Qin family get close to the Hua family? Chapter 394. Hearing this, Yun Nuo looked at Hua Shidu in disbelief. Why was Hua Shidu related to Bai Yunj? Yun Nuo instantly had mixed feelings, but she could not figure out how Bai Yunj was worthy of these people's favor. Miss Pei. Old Master Yun caught the main point. Hua Shidu glanced at Bai Yunj carelessly, before he smirked. The young lady is very lovable. At this moment, because of Hua Shidu's words, Old Master Yun's expression froze. He started to suspect if he had stood on the wrong side from the start. If Bai Yunj could have a good relationship with this person from the Hua family, so what if Qin Yojiao entered the International Musicians Association? I really didn't expect Miss Pei to know President Hua. Old Master Yun's expression froze. But no matter how he thought about it, he could not understand why President Hua was so concerned about Bai Yunj. Could it be because of Bai Yunj's face? Although he had seen many beauties in his life, he had to admit that the face of this real young lady of the Qin family was the most stunning and unforgettable. At this moment, Mrs. Qin did not want all the topics to revolve around Bai Yunj, so she immediately interrupted. Dad, haven't you always liked Teacher Du Xiao? This time, Teacher Du Xiao agreed to come to our house for a meal. Teacher Du Xiao is coming to our place. Hearing this, Old Master Qin furrowed his eyebrows. It was rumored that Du Xiao had always been arrogant and did not go to any dinner parties. Yes, Teacher Du Xiao likes Jiao Jiao quite a lot. Mrs. Qin deliberately gave Qin Yojiao a good impression. However, how could Old Master Qin not see through Mrs. Qin's intentions? Then why are you coming to our Qin family? Old Master Qin's tone was cold. The smile on Mrs. Qin's face disappeared and she could only retreat in order to advance. Dad, if you really don't want to see Jiao Jiao, I promise that Jiao Jiao will never disturb you again. Carefree Book Network. I've already invited Teacher Du Xiao over this time. Just treat it as the last time you're giving Jiao Jiao face. Hearing this, Old Master Qin could not help frowning, his heart wavering. After all, he had indeed watched Qin Yojiao grow up. But if he agreed, what would Gu think? Suddenly, Bai Yunj said leisurely, let him do it. Old Master Qin was stunned. Gu, you, Bai Yunj, I've seen him before. Gu, you know Teacher Du Xiao too. Old Master Qin was surprised. Yes. Yesterday, Du Xiao had even sent her a message asking if they could have dinner together tonight. However, she was just in time to pick up Old Master Qin from the hospital, so she refused. As for Promise Clouds, when he heard this, he could not help but laugh mockingly. He was slapping himself in the face to look impressive. Just because he had met Mr. Du Xiao once, he thought that he was Mr. Du Xiao's friend. Mr. Du Xiao had met so many people, but had he ever bothered with anyone? Yun Noa could not understand how the daughter of the Qin family could be so stupid, unlike the three sons of the Qin family at all. But that's fine too. When teacher Du Xiao came, she would know that she was no match for Zhao Zhao. Mom, you don't want to know my methods, do you? A faint mocking look appeared in Mrs. Qin's eyes as she said, Teacher Du Xiao likes Zhao Zhao a lot and even praised her for being someone great in the future. This time, I also want to ask Teacher Du Xiao if he's willing to take Zhao Zhao as his student. Of course he's willing. Don't worry, Mrs. Qin. After all, she's the young female pianist that the nation has personally conferred upon her, Yun Noa said with a smile as her eyes swept over Bei Yunj. However, you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.